Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 263. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
It's clobbering time.
That is a very topical reference if you happen to care about wrestling. Connor's also here.
I thought Matt was just banned for the other company for no reason.
No.
I did not realize there was
No.
context.
CM Punk comes out, he checks his watch, and then yells to the crowd, "It's clobbering time!"
In my defense,
ever-loving blue-eyed thing.
In my defense, this is a comic book podcast, not a wrestling podcast.
No,
I mean,
but
that's why
forgive me for assuming you were referencing Marvel.
well, yes, but Matt is a much bigger fan of CM Punk than he is the Thing from Fantastic Four.
Mind you,
I was going to say, are you sure about that?
my Skype image is the Thing dressed as CM Punk. So
Yeah, but is that because you think it's cool that it's thingified CM Punk, or because it's like the combination of two things you love?
that's that. I do love the Thing. He might be in my top 10 Marvel.
He's a very
characters.
obvious Matt character.
Yeah, I love him. He's big and grumpy, and what's not to love?
Let it be known, if I ever say the sentence, I love the Thing, I'm talking about John Carpenter's movie, right?
I like that one too.
Let me make that very clear.
It's a very good one.
Not that I have any strong negative feelings about the Thing, I just don't really care about Fantastic Four that much.
I love John Carpenter's The Thing. I love the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing. I love Swamp Thing. I kind of like Man Thing. So those are just things.
Matt likes things. That's been confirmed. Yes, but Bryan Danielson is more important than CM Punk, and that seems like more of a done deal at this point. Just to keep on this topic for a split second. I almost
feel though that again, this was a smoke. We talked about it in a side chat. I feel like the Punk thing was a smokescreen to bring in the American Dragon. So, apparently ticket sales for Chicago for All Out through the roof.
That's the thing. So, it's actually starting to look like both are plausible. They're both starting to get enough traction that it feels like it may happen. But this is a DC Comics podcast, believe it or not. We talk about comic books, we read their DC Comics, and we talk about the ones we read. It's pretty much that simple. And coming up on today's show, we are going to be talking about Superman and the Authority, issue 1, Nightwing 82, Justice League 65, The Flash 772, Catwoman 33, Blue and Gold issue 1, although if we don't have time we may skip that, and then Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
I'd rather skip Justice League and just talk Justice League Dark, but hey-o.
And also I'm doing a Patreon book of Joker issue 5. I don't know if Cara, you doing one?
I did Harley Quinn issue 4. I think it was 4.
Sounds so confident.
It was 4.
Okay,
yes.
Harley Quinn issue 4. I'm noting it down right now. Okay, so that's what's coming up on the show, though. So, interesting mix of books, but we don't have the 90 minutes of solicits like we did last week because there was so much new stuff in the solicits that it was...
I'm not going to lie. Last week was not our highest quality episode in that back half because we were quite tired at the end of that with that amount of solicits.
We clearly ran out of steam, yes, probably about 2 books into the second half, and then it was just kind of on fumes from that point on. But,
really was.
It's fine. It's fine. I think people enjoy the loopiness a little bit, so we can...
Well, 250 plus episodes in, I think.
This is episode 263, so yes, that would be an accurate statement.
I'd forgotten for a moment. We're allowed one every so often, but we're just tired.
I think we have a reasonable quality when we're below par.
That's the millennial war cry. We're just so tired.
Yes, to swing it back around to wrestling, that's why Orange Cassidy is the most perfect symbol of the current era as far as wrestling characters goes.
I never had strong feelings about Sting. I love Sting after that altercation.
I'm so confused.
Okay.
You know what, Carter? Dynamite AEW has been on basically fire for the last few weeks, and it seems like it's going to continue. So you might get little references here or there.
They have no competition. That said, I am paying attention to stuff going on in Impact because a guy that started out here is named Chris Bay. He's over there. at Impact, and Jay White offered him a spot in the Bullet Club. And if that happens, it's wild seeing a guy that I watched in like a room with 50 other people now getting to join the Bullet Club, like crazy. So I would say, but that's not even competition for AEW because those are, it's almost a partner at this point.
Well, that's the thing. Like the rest of the wrestling world has decided to do a shared universe where they all coexist. It's just WWE is just this weird like Apple, but they're not as good as Apple. And I don't like Apple, but they're like a shit version of Apple of wrestling.
Yeah, they're and they can't even get their stuff across the board right because
I saw
the NXT champ.
I saw
got rolled out by Jeff Hardy.
In 2 minutes, I believe it was. It was a 2-minute squash match.
I don't think I've ever felt my eyes glaze over before.
No, I saw a great tweet that it said that AEW, New Japan, AAA, Impact, and one other one are more in sync with each other and more on the same page than NXT is with the main roster in WWE.
And as someone that started watching NXT again because Samoa Joe popped back up, NXT is still good, but there's no competition. Like it's just, NXT is its nice little sub. It's in its own world, right? It's almost like if you were only into Wildstorm instead of DC, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like you just enjoy your Wildcats.
Those people definitely exist.
And they were ecstatic last week when that Grifter story ended.
So, I forgot to read that.
No, wait, that's Wildcats, not Wildstorm. Never mind.
No,
that's Wildcats.
Yeah.
Oh, did they say Wildcats? Oh, sorry, I thought they said Wildstorm. Never mind. Okay, fair enough.
But I said Wildstorm because that's where Wildcats started, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it's all that universe, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Basically, I had a momentary fart where I thought they were two different, separate, completely different things.
Oh, I mean, the Authority were Wildstorm, and now they've crossed to DC.
Yeah, Wildstorm was the DC, and Authority and Wildcats were.
I love how we get back into
within, right?
DC Comics related discussion because Matt used a DC Comics thing as a metaphor for the wrestling conversation we were having.
Professional segue.
That's where my brain. Where my brain goes.
It's professional podcasting.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll come back up later. But
you'll be pleased to know I've been yelling MDK all day since since yesterday when I watched Dynamite. People are tired of me, if you can imagine. So
that was that was a eventful thing, yes. And I'm happy for Archer. I'm happy Archer got to be the first person to beat Moxley clean, and it was a nice brutal match.
And it played with the rules of wrestling, where you set up the death trap, you go into the death trap.
Yes.
So as soon as he set it up, I looked over at my wife and was like, "Oh, Mox is taking some time off again."
Yeah, but isn't it nice that the hometown hero got to win?
I don't mind that. I mean, the only time I've cared about that is Money in the Bank 2011.
That's 10 years ago, Matt. It's a decade ago.
Yeah, that's where the last time. That's when Punk won the title, right?
And they ruined it within like a month. So
shh, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the Kevin Nash stuff.
Kevin Nash came in with his dodgy knees and pissed it all away. All right,
oh boy.
But to get onto DC Comics stuff,
again now,
apologies for the 90 or so % of the audience who just hated the last 3 minutes of conversation.
Believe me, audience, I feel you.
Hey Connor, it didn't come home.
We spoke about this last week. It did not,
Oh,
unsurprisingly,
what
because England always choke, especially in penalties.
But
that's what England do.
But Matt, it was the funniest version of not coming home though, because they got all the way to penalties and then lost right at the very end.
Shootouts suck, even
funny.
in soccer.
Especially, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it sucks, but hey, new season starts up in like a few weeks' time, so I can get back to
like
being
a true
disappointed on a
battered
weekly
fan.
basis.
Spoken like a true battered fan. Next season starts soon.
I can be disappointed on a weekly basis by my team. It's fine.
To get on with the show then, shall we? of course, we got all those books to go up, and we don't have any news solicits this week, which is notable compared to last week. But we have everyone's favorite segment, the most popular segment. I can tell this. I can tell you the amount of people who I think just watch this segment or listen to this segment and then don't even listen to the rest of the show. They're just here for the top 10.
We call them masochists.
ComiXology top 10's a draw, brother. All right, it's a draw.
It is the forbidden door.
I've not got enough booze for tonight.
I like how Conrad got that was a wrestling reference though.
Yeah. just from the grins between the two of you.
That said, real quick, Pete, before we go on, did you see the trailer for Heels?
No, I did not. No, that's the Stephen Amell.
It looks pretty good. I don't know if it's gonna be that melodramatic or what, but it looks like a. You know how you got real excited to watch Glow because you're like, oh, it's about the storytelling.
Oh, sure.
And about the work that goes in. It's kind of how this one feels, but it's a bit dirtier and dodgier. So seems like a lot of fun. I might have to subscribe to Stars. Because I don't know how that works. I don't know if they have a deal with like Netflix or whatever to put them up after. So I do want to watch it.
Oh, speaking of TV shows that should be watched, are you going to be watching Superman and Lois, Matt, when it's done with the season?
I will, because I had added it to my list on HBO Max, and then I went to watch it, and they removed it from HBO Max. So I have only seen 2 episodes, because I refuse to go to the CW app, because the CW app sucks worse than the TNT app.
Well,
and the TNT app sucks.
You have most of the best stuff yet to come.
Yeah.
Some twists and turns and things to enjoy. So
I will watch it. So I'm waiting for that one. I'm waiting for season 5 of Riverdale.
They've somehow actually kind of redone several things from Batman v Superman, but good. It's actually very impressive.
Oh, you mean it wasn't the concepts, it was the execution?
Like there's straight up a Martha adjacent scene.
Oh,
but it's good. But it's a good scene.
Yeah. The overall arc of one character in this season has been that movie.
You just telling me Batman's on Superman and Lois?
No, Batman's not it. But someone else
adjacent.
Someone's a stand-in for the role that Batman plays in the story.
Gotcha.
I don't want to spoil it.
You won't guess who it is. Don't worry.
Nah. All right. Everyone's favorite segment, the ComiXology top 10. Let's start with this. It's a DC book at number 1, so I will open the floor to some guesses.
I don't know what books came out this week.
Just stick with what you read. It's not Superman the Authority.
Damn.
Nightwing?
Nightwing is number 1 at the time of recording. Nightwing 82.
I really thought that Morrison and Janin, however we're saying it, was going to be able to make a push.
I like Janin. Mikel Janin. Yeah.
I have seen it's supposed to be Janin, like that.
I
figured it was a soft. I figured it was a Y sound.
Yeah.
But...
I went to meet him at WonderCon a couple of years ago, but he was never at his damn table. He was the opposite of what's his name? I'm having a hard time.
David Arquette.
No. the really dodgy artist that we all don't like.
Oh, Rob Liefeld?
Who?
Rob Liefeld?
Yeah, thank you. Jesus Christ. Liefeld, always at his table. Always. That dude's never gone.
This is the only place he makes money all year.
Yeah. Janin, he's never there. Very disappointed. Had so much Grayson for him to sign. Not there.
Matt kept coming back. Good. Damn it, Janine! And walking away again.
And then he has his comic art. What do you want?
All right, number 2 is Star Wars Darth Vader 14. Number 3 is Marauders, which is an X book, issue 22. Number 4 is Superman the Authority, issue 1, so it's fairly high up. New Mutants, issue 20 is number 5, and then number 6 is Justice League 65. And then Alien, issue 5 is number 7. Number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy, issue 16. Number 9 is The Flash, issue 772. So we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4 DC books in the top 10. That's not bad. And number 10 is Thor Annual, issue 1.
I tried reading that Alien series last week because I have Marvel Unlimited for anyone who knows. That's how I read all my Marvel books now. This is a 3-month delay. So I was tried the first issue a couple of weeks ago. I literally could not finish it. I got maybe 7 or 8 pages in, and the art is just horrendous.
Oh boy!
And it's Philip K. Johnson writing it, who we clearly like a lot.
Yeah.
But oh boy, could not do it. Not even for free as part of my subscription.
Not even for free.
Yeah, so I just can't finish this, which sucks.
Yeah, just looking at a little bit further ahead to some of the DC books. Blue and Gold come in at number 11 right now, which is
pretty good,
honestly, yeah, it's better than I'd have thought. Supergirl's a few slots slower, and then you got a few slots slower again for Catwoman, which kind of rounds out everything on that top 24. Because the first it's 4 rows of 6, so it's always the top 24 that I'm kind of looking at when I'm doing this. So not bad. There's something to be said for being on the front page. So cool. There you go. I won't belabor it. As your ComiXology top 10, straight into the point. Everyone loves it. But Matt, he just likes to pretend he doesn't.
No, I really don't like it.
I think Matt wasn't
like you and Connor
there for a minute. He was just nodding.
Yes, he was nodding. Let it be known, Matt nodded first, and then remembered to go back into character.
Like, nodding along, being like, "Come on, let's get on with this."
Yeah,
that's exact. Connor gets it.
Well, Connor catches everything.
It doesn't work all
apparently.
day. Just go, What did I just say? Not a clue.
Oh dear. Alright, let's get into some books, shall we? Superman and the Authority, issue 1. Grant Morrison and Mikel Janin on the art. That's the thing now. Mikel Janin, I've decided that's.
I really hope that someone hasn't clicked on like the YouTube cut-up version of this book as the first thing they've ever watched from us. we do know that's not how it's said. Please don't let that turn you away.
You're right. I realised my mistake. It's not Mikel Janin. It's Mikel and Janin. It's a pair. It's a couple. It's a duo.
Jeez.
It's an art duo. Well, that's some humor to the proceedings, all right.
Yeah, we need it after this book. This was, oof.
Superman the Authority. Yeah.
This is so obviously we knew this was a holdover from 5G. Like behind the scenes, we'd heard about this a long time ago, and it was in that rumblings. Janin was even sharing mock-ups last week of what designs Superman was going to be, and some of them looked significantly older, like grayer hair, for example.
Yeah.
I feel like this doesn't fit with continuity in a lot of ways, even though it's telling me.
You mean the part where it's in the 60s and Superman's talking to JFK? Yeah. You mean that?
Yeah, there's like some throwaway lines that maybe implies there's some random time travel that was going on with Supes.
Maybe, yeah.
But I still don't understand that all the stuff in the now, which it says now specifically, not a specific time. But there's all this like implications that Superman's not been around for a while. And I'm like,
well, not just Superman, but superheroes in general.
Yeah, and I'm like, this. And I would be fine just saying this is out of continuity. It's a mini. Sure, whatever. It could still be enjoyable. But Superman and the Authority team is going to be in Action Comics after this arc. So, what?
I'm willing to bet there's some shenanigans that go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're telling me Grant Morrison might pull some shenanigans?
Yeah.
I mean,
and if this was any other writer, I would be like, I'd be dreading that. But I trust in Morrison and the multiverse.
I mean, it is entirely possible that this is just another Earth and they just visit the main Earth in Action Comics.
Because there's the way that they talk about Superman's son and his wife, and it's all stuff that's from the past, and we all know that's not like even in Johnson's action stuff, with the War World and all that. I mean, unless this is a post-War World Superman, and that's why, but this is not current continuity, and you can't tell me that it is.
Well,
it's just.
I mean, I would accept just it's in the future, and it's a possible future, like any other book that has a possible future
state.
But
it specifically says now.
Yeah,
that says nothing to me. The now just means now in the context of this book. I don't care about that.
Right.
But the problem is
day.
The problem is that this Superman and his team are apparently showing up in Action Comics soon, and this is definitely not. We're not going to be ready for post-War World Superman in a couple of months' time in Action Comics. We're not going to be there at that point. So
and that's why, and I'm definitely getting Kingdom Come Superman vibes from the Superman, and it's not just the S logo or the gray on the temples. This is a Superman that is world weary, and and isn't the bright shiny beacon of hope. He's kind of like, yeah, I had hope. It went bad, and now I have to team up with Manchester Black.
He's a little bit Dark Knight Returns in the sense of, where he kind of treats Manchester Black very coldly. He's just like, like just
matter of factly
deals with him really matter of factly, pretty harshly at points. Causes some pain and doesn't seem to worry too much about it.
To be fair, I mean, it feels like Manchester Black is just sci-fi Constantine. You know what I mean?
Isn't he usually?
Yeah. So I get it. Like Superman does not gel with that guy.
Yeah, because we have the opening where the Superman's talking to JFK, and it's the 60s, and it's like right before the assassination of JFK, because it's the same month.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, it's November 1963 because he got shot November 22nd.
Yes.
So
and JFK's like, hey, if anything happens to me, you have to promise you're going to lead the world forward and help humanity go forward. Blah blah blah. We skip ahead to whatever this book's present day is, and it's Manchester Black. There's a SWAT team after him. And I'll give this book credit. Like I was expecting something that was going to be super wordy, and at the very least, this entire section where there's a SWAT team coming after Manchester Black is actually quite light and breezy because it's mostly just art and action.
Morrison really got out of his own way and let Janin tell the story. So, and I go hard at Morrison just because a lot of his concepts I miss with, like they're just not for me. However, he is an adept comic writer, so of course he's not going to word up Janin pages, where you got Manchester Black jumping through windows and stuff.
Anyone who overwords Janin pages deserves to be fired. I
mean, even I'm looking at thinking back to the first time I saw Janin art, and that was in Grayson. I don't think Seeley or King ever was too wordy.
They tended to, if anything, let him have a bit too much freedom and just hey, do double page splashes all the time. Yeah, it was kind of underwritten at points almost, where they're like, hey, you want to see Dick doing something cool? Yeah, pretty much.
So, but no, I forget which Twitter account tweeted it, but they had pointed out that this dichotomy of Superman with Kennedy, and then what that represents when you get to the point where he talks about the later 60s. When all of these political figures basically get assassinated and the whole world just it changes, and how Superman still you get the vibe that he didn't give up, he went harder, and maybe that's why he's so world weary. But he's still Superman, right? I don't get vibes he's this dark, I'm trying to think of another comparison, of a dark Superman. He's just a darker shade of gray Superman.
He's not all the way to Dark Knight Returns Superman specifically.
Well, Dark Knight Returns Superman is a government puppet, right?
Right. He's not that far gone.
No, he's not that, but he's also, you just feel like he's been active somewhere. We just don't know what he's been up to.
That's the thing. It tells me that, there's time travel stuff going on, and he spent some time in the 60s and other points in time, but came back, but it kind of just feels like he lived it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this almost feels like, removing the whole continuity piece, this almost feels like a sequel to Morrison's Action Comics, where you had Superman, originally that was meant to be a story out of continuity, and it was a retelling of Superman in the 30s and, how all that played out. This feels like he had kept pace, and now he's in the 60s. Now he's in whatever the present day is, and you can track that character.
I can see what you're saying. So it's kind of a weird version of if his original stuff this Superman had lived from the 30s, he would have been in his prime in the 60s.
Right.
And the older, wearier Superman now.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
That's how I read the rest of the book. Once I got to the 68 part and the Manchester Black, and I mean, I really the only time I've ever read Manchester Black is in What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. You know, with him and the Elite and all of that stuff.
Isn't Manchester Black in Tomasi's?
Oh shit, he was. I forgot.
Yeah, it was.
That's the stuff. Yeah, that's the stuff that doesn't get us high praise.
Yeah, that's where we started falling off that run, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Manchester Black, I just, he's, the anti-hero that's just meant to serve as a foil for Superman. So a lot of their stuff going back and forth here, like Superman fixing his spine and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so
to
explain this, Manchester Black, after he deals with the SWAT team with his powers, Superman shows up. He wakes up in the fortress, and he's rambling on about Superman having done this to him and putting him in this chair. But the chair's actually healing him after Superman's already fused his spine back together or something like that.
He gets shot before Superman shows up. Like, the bullets do go through him, so I'm assuming that's what caused the damage.
Oh yeah, sure. I wasn't fixated on what caused the damage. I just, but Superman has brought him here partly because he's thinking he's going to need some help because the Phantom Zone is about to open up. There's a bunch of criminals in the Phantom Zone who have figured out how to get through it. Probably my favorite thing in the whole book is Manchester Black saying, "F that, I'm not helping you at all," and just walks out into the snow. But he gets so far away, you don't get like any speech in the bubble, but you just get the little sharp bubble that implies that he's yelling an F-bomb or something off in the distance, and you can't hear it. Obviously, he's like, damn it, I've got too much of a conscience, I need to go back and help with him. So, that was a neat little beat. Manchester Black's kind of a weird character for me, because I like him in the story with the Elite, because it's kind of what that story is for Superman and what it is about him sort of standing up for who he is and his principles. But Manchester Black as a character on his own, I don't really like that much. I've never really liked when he's popped up again. And as someone who doesn't like John Constantine really that much, the fact that I don't like Manchester Black that much, it should not come as a surprise. So
yeah, that's why I asked if that was a good take, because that's how I feel that he is, and it's not just because he's British and whatnot, but he's just kind of this guy that's he's chaotic neutral. He's out for himself. He's out to cause as much, trouble as he can and keep his hands clean from it all. And sometimes I almost just wish it was Constantine, because I'd like to see, that whole magic side with Superman versus the telekinesis, telepathy part of it. But yeah, I did like this Phantom Zone sequence though too, where the Phantom Zone criminals have co-opted these drones that were originally sent in, and there's a breach, and so Superman has to fight them, and Manchester Black comes in and tries to trick them, but because their AI, his telepathy doesn't work, I just thought that was a real good show of his character, to where that he's just used to messing with people's brains first.
And then he's like, shit, yeah, I don't want this.
Yeah, you got to do something else. Right, so that was pretty good. And again, the art here just is doing so much work, like, and the color here with when the Phantom Zone opens and you get all those reds.
Well, the reds.
My only problem with the colors here is Superman's suit randomly turns black.
Well, the reds also come into play earlier on with the SWAT team, so I think the red's actually a strong indicator of when Manchester Black's using his telepathy powers.
That makes sense. I didn't pick up on that.
I think it's that, and also there was there's a nice thematic crossover with the last Action Comics annual that we just had, where the Phantom Zone had turned red, and we kind of experienced it through that view.
Yeah,
so it kind of lines up nicely with that as well.
Yeah, some tease of a villain in Earth's orbit, who because Superman's been weakening over the years, he can barely fly anymore. He can hover. He can't really fly the way he could before. And this villain's got some kryptonite by the looks of it, some glowing green.
And he says that they've kind of misunderstood kryptonite, and he knows its true purpose. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
This has to be Lex, right?
I don't think so. I think it's.
I don't know.
It could be anybody.
He
really,
talks
though.
about his oldest enemy.
I mean, I get it.
Kryptonite.
It looks kind of like an alien to me, though.
No, I don't think so. I think he's just old.
I mean, and if my theory holds, and this is Lex from the 30s, and he's gone to space to preserve his his body or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'd put money on Lex right now.
Superman shows Manchester Black. He's got the round table.
A round table.
He's got a round table. Well, no, because he mentions that he saved it from Camelot, right?
Yeah, but he mentions that there was multiple Camelots, and various Arthurs, so it's a round table in that
right,
sense.
Which again goes into the whole what we know about Morrison and the multiverse and fluidity of time and whatnot, right? So just like there's many Arthurs, there might be many Clarks.
That's true. But this is another point where in the colors I don't quite understand what's going on. Superman's suit randomly just switches panel to panel between being the kind of couple of shades of blue and just being pure black with just red. Over this page and the next couple, it just goes back and forth randomly, and I don't understand why. Like, I don't know if it's a coloring mistake or if there's a reason, and I don't know if I'm picking up on something or not.
I think it's just meant to be when we're further away from, it's just we lose detail and they're representing that with it just being black.
But that you wouldn't see that as just black when. I don't know. It just doesn't track for me. I can still see the blue on Manchester's shirt, but Superman, who's all in blue, it becomes black. That makes no sense.
I mean, I get the logic. I'm not saying it's necessarily the right choice, but I think that's just all it is. I don't think there's any more reasons for it than that.
I mean, maybe that is what it is, but if it is, I really dislike that choice.
It's not something that particularly bothered me, if I'm honest. Basically, Manchester Black's going to look out for some names, some team members to recruit to help build the final world, and we have the ironic ending of him throwing up all over a globe, which is
yes, because he has a pre-existing medical condition where if he doesn't consume alcohol on an hourly basis, he goes into what I'm assuming he was going to say a coma, something.
So Connor, what's that like?
I couldn't possibly say.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what's so weird about this is I thought this was a pretty easy read, which is not something I would often say for Grant Morrison comics in recent times. As far as the actual content goes, though, as far as what the story is so far and what it's leading to, I'm kind of like, that's okay. Like I'm not feeling in love with it. I'm not. I think the art's very good.
With the art, yeah.
Yeah, I think the art makes it feel like it's a bit more important than it actually is right now. And returning to the at one point Superman thinks about JFK again, and we get again the sort of the shaky film strip look of like the memory of that.
Well, yeah, it's calling out to the Zapruder film, the famous.
Yeah.
So
it's the sort of book where it's fine for the story, confusing in its place and context, gorgeous art. However, if we didn't know for a fact that this team was showing up in a couple of months' time in the main book that obviously going to be reading, I don't know if I'd stick with it. But the fact that it's only 4 issues, it means I probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's Superman, so I'm going to stick with it. Right? So, like,
Okay. I mean, I guess we're pretty much at the ratings. I don't have any like big hot takes. Be honest, it's fine. I don't. It's the most boring thing to say, but
I think had we been in a 5G world, this would have been a lot more interesting because it could have committed to its ideas.
Right. Well, and also the whole idea that the Justice League failed too. We kind of skipped over that. That are they not out there anymore? Did something happen? Like what's been going on here? Why does he need to assemble this new team?
Yeah, it's an interesting book in a place of looking at it as a glimpse into what DC Comics might have looked like in an alternate timeline, right? In a world where Didier wasn't fired, this is the current state of the DC universe.
You mean
right
no,
now?
we have a name for that. It's called the Darkest Timeline.
Yes. In the darkest timeline,
Yes.
this is what DC Comics looks like, and that is fascinating. But as a story, as in its own right, as an issue, yeah, it's fine. It's hardly Morrison's best work, but Janin turns in 25 or so great-looking pages as usual.
Yeah,
so,
it's a little oversized, worth mentioning. It's more than 20 pages.
Yeah.
All right, well, we can read it then. Matt, what are you giving Superman the Authority?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Car?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm inclined to give it a 6.5. So, there you go. Nightwing 82. Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art. So, always an event. Get a new issue of Taylor's Nightwing. And
Just for the record, Redondo, Rick Leonardi, and Neil Edwards are all on art.
Oh, I do apologize. But yeah, so we had the cliffhanger last issue of the sister. I thought this was particularly well handled at the start of this book. The way Nightwing's narration kind of like reacts to more parts of what she says as it's only the first panel really, but it made me laugh a little bit. The little oh no when he realized there might be some validity to this was
that panel. I had flashbacks to as if I was reading the Brian Q. Miller Stephanie Brown Batgirl book.
Yeah,
with that narration.
I can see that. I can see that. And I got a cackle out of this joke here where you realize, oh, give me my mask back. I need to talk to Oracle. She's probably sending in the cavalry. And we get this joke where she has to call off the save bird rescue?
Big bird extraction.
Big bird extraction, that's what it was. And you turned the page and I was like, okay, here we're going to see like, the entire Justice League. And it was like, it ended up being not the Justice League, but it was like the Titans, Batman, all being like, all right, we're almost here though.
It's his Titans team, which makes sense. That's way better to me than the Justice League.
I love when writers do this because it's like it's heartwarming to see them come to save him, and then even Bruce is kind of the last one to peel out.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to imply that I was disappointed that it wasn't the Justice League. No.
But I like that it's his Titan team. Like if it's not like, and personally, I'm glad it's
his
not
team and Batman because of course Batman.
I guess in my head I thought it might have even been funnier if it was like that page you get at the end of like Rebirth when it was launching. It was the whole roster of the DC universe. Just have a page like that where they're all coming because Dick Grayson's in trouble.
Memes though. Here they come to save him from DDO.
But no, it was a heartwarming little beat. But it's like, okay, all right, you're about to be completely trashed by lots of superheroes.
The small moment of him letting out the sigh of relief and there being the physical puff of air is a artistic touch I absolutely love in this issue.
Oh sure, yeah, and So from here it becomes this flashback issue where she takes him to her mother. And her mother tells the story of how she met John Grayson and Zuko and everyone else. And it's not a pleasant story. It's a pretty sad story where she was effectively purchased as a bride, as a young woman, and eventually run away when she was at the circus. The Graysons helped her. She does point out, though, that Dick's parents were not an item yet. And even though in hindsight she said it was pretty clear that they were always going to eventually be an item, but they weren't actually an item. So there was never cheating or anything like that.
They put her that John put Mary up on such a pedestal and vice versa that they couldn't make it work yet.
And the art here is very much and the flashback and the story itself is very much trying to harken back to like an older age of comic books.
I feel like this would look amazing printed on matte newspaper style paper.
The old style.
But that's what it's shooting for. It wants that feel because it's trying to harken back because Dick Grayson's origin, of course, goes all the way back to the 40s.
Yeah.
So, and so what's interesting about this is that obviously it just shows that both the Graysons are kind of heroic because they're hiding this woman who's scared. She ends up staying with John. for a brief time until
as well that everyone in the circus steps in to help.
Even Haley comes in and says, do you know where she is? And he's like, oh, she's in my trailer. It's like, oh, good man. Like, there's a little exchange there that's really sweet. And I think what's interesting to me about this story though is that Zuko eventually finds her when they're touring somewhere else, and comes and nabs her back and gets John back a little bit by beating him up, and he's going to kill him, but whatever. What gets me about this story is that this is effectively adding in an element to the murder of the Graysons. And that's the sort of thing that on paper, if you just told me they're going to, add in an extra bit of motivation for that, it might sound quite bad. And for most superhero origin stories, I think most things you could add to them are probably going to feel like a really bad retcon, feel like you're putting stuff in. I think what makes it kind of work here with this is that the Grayson's murder was never meant to be a random act like Bruce's parents was. It was never meant to be that.
There was always motivation. There was always some sort.
There was always intention. This just flips it slightly to being he specifically wanted those two to be the ones who died, beyond just two people at the circus to make the threat, the retaliation as it was.
It adds a bit more of it being personal for Zuko. Like, it wasn't just a shakedown. Like he was getting back at the carnival for stealing his, what's the word? Mail order bride.
Essentially,
yeah.
So, and I like
the
that
way he sees it, probably property.
Right, and so the fact that this now created Nightwing and also, this Zuko, and now she's the mayor of Bloodhaven, all goes back to the circus.
Yeah, it's actually an impressive way of adding it into the story without changing or altering what the story was supposed to be in the first place. It didn't feel like it betrayed the intent of that action. And there's obviously the beat where, because she makes it clear that this is because before the Graysons got together, that obviously that means Dick's sister's older than him, at least by a little bit. And she mentions that she brought her daughter to meet John, when she was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something, and lo and behold, found that Dick was there and existed and was with his parents, and didn't want to make that life messy, didn't want to make that relationship messy, which again is a little heroic on her part and a bit selfless. Although she always wanted to kind of eventually come in and tell them, and let people know, and give them a chance to meet, give people, give John a chance to meet his daughter, and for all the reasons that you would, but of course, it was too late because of the death. So, it's I think it's a really neat way of repackaging this a little bit to put in this character. And I know that I usually complain about retconning characters into someone's past. But this is a rare case where I think it kind of works. And I also think it's important to say that this is not retconning someone into Dick's past that he knows that we've never heard about. Right. This is someone that Dick didn't know about. So it puts him in the same footing as us, which makes it easier to relate to as a reader. Mm-hmm. So,
well, now his sister's the mayor. So, and works for Blockbuster. This is a typical Daredevil move, I feel. Which I always love the comparisons between Daredevil and Dick Grayson, because they're both these heroes that just get the absolute piss knocked out of them in their personal and superhero life, and this is just another one.
One second, Connor, drink for that. That was a personal and professional comment.
Oh, God damn it.
Repackaged.
Okay,
you need to drink for that. Continue, Matt.
I will drink for that.
Wait, why is he drinking?
Because when we do TV news, the phrase personal and professional comes up so many times in descriptions for TV shows that it became a drinking rule.
Shit! I didn't even know.
It's like if I see the words bloodlust in a comic now, now, I have an instinct to reach for a drink. Even when I'm not watching Arrow or anything like that, there's just a reflex. I hear bloodlust, I reach.
To be fair, there's a lot of key phrases that make Connor reach for a drink.
Yes.
Yeah, most of them come out your mouth, annoyingly.
So anyway, I just love that now this overcomplicates. Not just there's a new mayor that has ties to Blockbuster, but now that Dick has a sister he never knew. And what is that gonna do?
Yeah, and I mean, there's another element here that you mentioned is that Melinda's mother here doesn't seem to know who her daughter is in terms of her criminal side of life.
No, and she doesn't know that Dick is Nightwing.
Yes, but obviously Melinda does because his mask is off at the start of this show. But we also have this idea that maybe Dick doesn't quite understand, because maybe we don't quite understand what her motives are. Like, I mean, she seems like she's being villainous, but I mean, this could all be for, a means to an end. This could be, for some other reason to take down the crime from the inside. Some.
Yeah, the fact that her origin is so tied to her mom trying to get away from Zuko, it makes me think that is not Tony's daughter. You know what I mean? Not just because it's, John Grayson's biological daughter, but she is doing this like it's a means to an end, right? Blockbuster, she got in with him. Now she's mayor, and she's actually, she wants to do good. I don't feel like she's villainous.
You feel at her heart she is more Grayson than Zuko, despite the name.
Yeah, and that the fact, like, she's still a politician, though, right? Like, she's still gonna mess with Dick on those levels, but not like, I don't think like the mayor's office is going to be interfering in superheroics.
A politician messing with Dick. Can't imagine that.
Usually, yeah. A bit of a different, but hey.
I actually touched at the end because obviously just as Dick's having this thought, it's like, hey, she doesn't really know about like what you're actually up to. I mean, she knows you become mayor and she seems quite proud of you, but she doesn't really know what you're up to. And just as that happens, there's a blinding light through the windows, a police helicopter, and the cliffhangers that Blockbuster is outside with the team. So it's entirely possible that Dick might hide at the start of next issue and let the scene play out, and we'll maybe hear some juicy details. Or it's possible that Dick will have to fight Blockbuster and get the shit beat out of him, which could also be fun.
Here's the thing: is as far as we know, that like he could just was he in his uniform?
He was at first, but he switched into something casual to meet the.
And Blockbuster doesn't know
pajamas,
Dick Grayson's. Yeah, he doesn't know Dick Grayson's Nightwing, right?
No.
Yeah, so this could just be a social call with the mayor, and he's gonna have to restrain himself from wanting to fight Blockbuster.
Yeah, but that classic trope where like Blockbuster will do something kind of like threatening, and Dick's going to have to hold back.
He has a lot of guns there for a social call.
That's true.
No, I'm talking not for Blockbuster, for Dick. That's how he's gonna have to escape.
Why Dick is there?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's just this is my whoever,
Yeah. If anything, Blockbuster's going to assume it's a romantic thing, and maybe there'll be a joke with Dick sort of like making a face like, yeah, romantic, yeah, with my sister. Or something, I don't know. But
I'm not even gonna do it.
I don't even know what I was thinking.
Make a really bad.
I don't know what I was gonna do either.
Yeah. So I will say on the art, obviously the Redondo art at the start and the end is fantastic. Exceptional as it's been throughout the book. I think the first flashback artist is really good because it's doing that classic style that's meant to mimic kind of the older comics. I think the second flashback artist though, is basically when it comes, basically when Dick's around as a boy, that sort of section of the book. That's when we have the second flashback artist, and it does look a bit, weaker, let's say, than the first chunk. When Dick's flying through the air, being grabbed by his parents and stuff.
It felt pretty consistent to me. I can see where the change is, like I say, but I don't feel like it's that different. Not anything drastic.
I mean, it's not terrible for the most part. I do think the full page spread of like the two dead parents and Dick crying his eyes out looks a bit rough. I don't know if it's just overshading or the over line work in the muscles just makes them all look a bit too bulky.
I mean, they are acrobats.
Yeah, but I mean, just even compared to the rest of the book, I don't. I'm not saying. I don't know. I'm just getting overly detailed from it. That's all I'm saying.
To me, I didn't get that at all. I feel pretty consistent. Maybe slightly overshadowed just because it's got that spotlight effect, very intentionally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like it's very from the transition to the very clean, right, where they're falling into the net. to a smash cut of there being no net.
Yeah.
And it's just complete. He's completely destroyed. I feel like the harshness works.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I'm not fond of the page. No one has to agree with me though. It's just a bit and we can move on. That's all right. That's all. Otherwise though, pretty great issue. Obviously, it's not one that moves the story forward much because it's by its nature it's a backstory issue. But the backstory stuff is pretty interesting, and it did a good job. Even though we know the fate of the Graysons, like giving us that small moment where John goes out of his way to protect this person is like, oh great, you're making me care in the context of even just this story, so that I'll care a little bit when they're dead. Thanks for that, Taylor. I mean, it is good. Objectively, it's good, but also I'm being cynical and saying thanks for that, Taylor, you dick. Making me feel bad.
That's what he does. That bastard.
Jerk.
He's shockingly good. I mean, the homeless guy with the heart from like issue 2. That was a thing. So he's been very good at that. I say issue 2. It was like 79. You know what I mean? The second issue
of this run.
Yes. So all right, Matt, what are you giving Nightwing 82?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Connor?
I'm giving it a straight 8. While very good, I think the nature of it being a flashback issue holds it back slightly.
I'll probably go with a straight 8 as well. Although I'll say it's just a bit more because the second flashback artist for me just maybe drags it down a little bit, but really good. As per usual, has a lot of that Nightwing flair that Taylor's had. All right, Justice League 65, Brian Michael Bendis with Steve Pugh on art. And I have to make a confession because I did not read this.
Matt, you've been shafted.
I've been.
It wasn't a planned thing. It was more just, times maybe starting to be a bit tight. I can either read Superman the Authority or Justice League. And I thought, you know what? I'll take the risk on the new thing. I'll roll the dice on the new thing.
Yeah.
It was Sinmar, Matt. All I could think of was Sinmar.
Yeah.
How was it?
Just take 2 minutes so I can go get a drink.
It's okay. Apparently, Lois has a brother. That's who that was targeting Black Canary and Ollie.
That's when.
Yeah, exactly. Says that it's Lois Lane's brother. His codename in Argus was Damon Rose, and he was trained by Sam Lane. So yeah, that's a pretty big. And then they're talking it out. And he never actually says he's Sam Lane's. Hold on. Yes, Sam Lane trained me himself till the day he died at the hands of Leviathan. So this is all about bringing them down. I don't believe it because I feel like that's a pretty big reveal just to happen in the beginning of a Justice League book. And then Deathstroke attacks, and Ollie gets quippy. I guess let's say more stuff, but I'm going to cover the Ollie and Dinah stuff first.
Sure.
And they go back, and Deathstroke is basically like, hey, no more Argus, no more Cadmus. That makes these tense standoffs are a bit more frustrating because no one knows what side you're on. And he says that he's here for Damon Rose. And then Dinah has a thought, and he's like, well, wait, Deathstroke, this would have been over. So you're not Deathstroke. So there's someone out there operating in, Deathstroke's uniform. And he goes, if it makes you feel better, I didn't see you until that split second I pulled the trigger. So, and it goes off. Damon Rose hits the fake Deathstroke. Ollie hits his pistol with the arrow. And, everyone ends up on the ground as the Hall of Justice is under attack, which is the Sidmar stuff, to where basically Sidmar shows up and to fight Superman and the Justice League, and it's just not good. Like, I don't care about Sidmar. I don't, and this sucks, and I sound like a broken. I don't care about this version of the Justice League. I don't. Like, Black Adam's cool. I love Naomi. Individually, they're fine. I don't know what the mission statement of this book is. So
to
like,
be, I can tell you, like,
it's the Bendis book.
it is.
Yeah.
I don't mean
Yeah.
that. I don't mean that to be a negative
Well,
thing. Not in the way of me coming from an anti-Bendis perspective. I mean,
right.
it's got Naomi, it's got Sigma. We know it's dealing with checkmate stuff. This is the central Bendis book to tie things together.
We get the Wonder Twins at the Hall of Justice, and they do their Wonder Twin powers activate. And Jaina takes the form of Gorilla Grodd, which weird. Does she get the telepathic
I don't think so.
stuff? And Zan takes a form of a bucket of ocean water, which then they throw on Aquaman, and nothing comes from it.
To power him up.
It's not like it's not like Aquaman's like, I need to get to the ocean, my powers are depleted. They just throw Zan in the form of a bucket of ocean water onto
Correct me if
Aquaman.
I'm wrong. That hasn't been how Aquaman's worked for like 15 years now.
No, yeah, because he's half human and he can, he doesn't need the water.
Yeah,
I kind of love. I do kind of like the novelty of salt water being to Aquaman what the sun is to Superman, where every so often.
Well, that's what he says.
Supercharged.
So Hippolyta goes to, she wants to battle Sinmar to the death, of course, because she's the queen of the Amazons. And Hawkgirl's like, hell yes, I love that you're here. And then Aquaman's like, I've seen enough, hit me. And then Batman hits him with the Zan bucket. And Kendra, the Hawkgirl's kind of like, okay. I don't understand what the point of this was.
Sorry, coming from an outside perspective, listening to Matt's retelling, this book sounds stupid as shit.
And you weren't even here for the Lois Lane who's got a brother part.
Yeah, Lois Lane's got a brother now.
Oh no, I did. I saw that. I saw that online.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I knew that.
So
Is his name Larry? Larry Lane?
Maybe.
No? Maybe. What was that?
That is the sort of backstory insertion that Pete hates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I'm willing to bet that he says he's Lois Lane's brother in the way that he was Sam Lane's son, that he treated me like a son, and he's trained me forever.
Oh.
And now he's the de facto Sam
I've got a perfect name. Lewis Lane. Lewis Lane and Lois Lane. That's your brother sister comp.
Yes.
And
no
Lucy.
parent will ever get confused between them.
So Superman announces to Sinmar, surrender, attacking me won't bring you peace. But Sinmar doesn't listen. So he's just
of course not.
ever loving piss out of the
I'm
Justice
shocked.
League. Yeah. Which leads Naomi to take her parents down to the basement where they run into the Justice League Dark and Constantine, who looks like he's just been using the bathroom because he comes up and zips up his fly. The Naomi goes into action where she distracted him, and it's just like they can't do anything to defeat this guy, and he blows up the Hall of Justice, and that's where it ends. So to be continued. Yeah, it's not. I'm losing patience. I'm committed because I'm buying it for Justice League Dark. But if I wasn't buying it for Justice League Dark, I'd drop it by now.
I have switched to. I have made the definitive choice to just wait for the issues to go on DC Universe Infinite, which is obviously 6 months behind.
Right.
I will read my Justice League Dark 6 months behind, and now Ramby has confirmed on Twitter that the plans, at least right now, it's been solicited, but the plans are to just collect Justice League Dark in its own trade, and I'll just buy that.
Yeah.
It'll take longer because I assume they have to wait for twice as many issues to come out.
Probably, but I will just buy that to show support. I'll still read it on Infinite.
So, I'm gonna give Justice League a grade. Steve Pugh's art, it's good. It's nothing.
I mean, it's Pugh. It's not gonna be bad. Is it?
No, it's good. His Sinmar's a little bit wonky. He's very lanky and very horror movie creature-esque versus alien-esque. But maybe that's the point of the story. Maybe that's a 5.5. I'm not digging it. Justice League Dark, though, gets very Ram V. Because this is the Eternal Night Part 2 with Sumit Kumar back on art. And what was his name? Something Singh. Batman and Alara the Night, Elnara, came across this dude that was plugged into all these computers. Come to find out that he is a very powerful psychic, and that cult that Batman is tracing is basically using him to get what they need, because they're using his telepathy and telekinesis to create alterations in reality that there aren't real, but they feel real. So they're using it as their whole thing. So Batman devises that Elnara, because that he reached out to her, that he can, through some Batman shenanigans, of course, because Batman can go basically into this guy's mind. So Batman hooks her up. She takes her night form and goes into this world where it looks like, like an early version of the Tower of Fate. It's like this big tower. Think Connor's things are off. But the tower from Game of Thrones.
He doesn't want spoilers, Matt. That's the thing.
The Tower of Joy, Connor, Game of Thrones. You remember what that looked like?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically where this guy goes. That's all I needed you for.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No,
yeah. So,
good, interesting architectural design, I guess.
Yeah. So she goes there to find his true form, because the true form is what's gonna be able to pull him out of this fate. And it's him as a little boy. And she greets him, and that Merlin. This is all Merlin's doing to remove him from the board. That the Brothers of Ambrosius, which is that cult that Batman was following, they're basically a cult devoted to bringing Merlin back. So they might have more to do with the story than we thought. And that Ambrosius was Merlin's original name. So they're tied to that. That's where her story ends, and it cuts back to Atlantis, which I thought Merlin had gone to an older Atlantis. This looks like modern day Atlantis, and he is attacking through like this dome with his big sea monster he pulled out of the library. Justice League Dark's there with Aquaman. Most of them have like some magic, air bubbles around their head. And it looks like it's a showdown with Merlin. And basically everything I dislike about Justice League, the opposite of Justice League Dark, occurs. Like, we get the story progressing. I get why all these characters are here. Even the appearance of Batman, which would normally annoy me, makes sense because they were in Gotham, and of course he'd be tracking a cult going through there. Him being able to hook into the psychic, whole network, a little bit too much. But Kumar's art, I've been a big fan of theirs since. I mean, I want to. Was Man-Bat the first time?
No, he did the Outsiders Future State.
Ah, that's right.
Which we all very much enjoyed the art of.
Yeah.
I really like him on These Savage Shores, which, Matt, you still need to read.
It's on back order still. I'm this close to ordering it from Amazon. This close, guys. So I want to give my shop money, but if they can't get it, like,
I've got like, I have like access to like 3 local shops. I got one that's like a true independent, and 2 that are varying degrees of chains. Both, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, relatively small, but in the UK comics industry, big-ish. One of those chains, the better of the 2, admittedly, has a Traveling Man, for anyone interested. It's just like a northern-only chain. It's decent. They have a exclusive cover for These Savage Shores, and I'm so close to reordering it. Like, I already have it. So much. I'm so close to ordering it.
He said, not that big in the grand scheme of things, and I just in my head pictured a storefront that said Amazon Comics.
Yeah,
that's called ComiXology.
So this is a very Ram B issue, just with the whole psychic network and tying that into Merlin, and he's just like, it's just kind of what I was enjoying him doing on Justice League Dark before it went to the backup. He's telling these big stories, and he had folded Swamp Thing into this too, about ideas and the whole birth and genesis of magic, and still paying off what Tynan had set up with the Upside Down Man, because that
what I'm hearing here, the conclusion of this issue is Ram V is a better storyteller than Bendis
right now.
I'll take it.
in this book, yes. So I'm gonna give Justice League Dark an 8. So overall, I guess the whole book, I'm bad at math. 6.5, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, go with
8.5, 5.5 is 14. That's 7.
Let's go with
So,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. We can live with that. If you want, we can just keep
All for
putting.
the comics, stay for the math.
We can keep putting Justice League on the list, and when we get to it, we'll just talk about Dynamite instead, Matt. I'll just be.
That's I.
I will equally just take my headphones off for that section.
Exactly. Yeah,
I would not know the
I don't.
difference.
Yeah, I don't want to give up on Bendis, and I paid for the book, so I might as well read what I paid for. It's made real hard. Really, really hard.
Yeah, I don't feel regret for my choice.
You shouldn't.
And anything that
You should.
that's it.
To be fair, it
What are
is
the
the
odds of
first
me
thing I
catching
read
up?
this week, so I got it out the way. So
The odds,
Yeah, in like 2 weeks' time when there's another issue. Because I think it's double shipping now, right?
it's double shipping for a few months. I think it goes back to single in like September, October, but
Right. So when there's another issue in 2 at most 3 weeks, are you going to read 2 issues of it?
2 issues of Cinema. That's what if it happens to be a super quiet week, then maybe I'll succumb to the temptation, but I suspect it won't be that quiet.
Probably not.
So there you go. That's Justice League 65. The Flash 772, Jeremy Adams with Will Conrad on the art. So still just me reading this, Matt? Did you
Yep, no, I have. It has been so hard to read through my comics the last couple weeks. I'm barely being able to keep afloat now.
Here's a bullet point for the annual, which was the end of the arc, Matt, last week.
Yeah.
Is that they retconned the shit out of Heroes in Crisis.
Of course they did.
We never have to hear about the trauma of what he did ever again because it wasn't his fault. So
thank you,
good.
Writer. That Pete will mention.
Jeremy Adams, yes, that's the one.
Jeremy Adams, good job, dude.
So now we're starting a new arc, and it's like, okay, Wally West is the Flash. He's got his Flash outfit on, and he's married with Linda. He's got the kids. This is what we are. We start the issue with like the home life, with Wally basically saying, "Shit, I need to get a job," and Linda's like, "Hey, can't you ask maybe some of those billionaires that also do superhero stuff
Ollie
to maybe give you a loan or something?" Is it nah, I don't want a handout, sort of thing. But yeah, it's all just family stuff. It's the West family household. The kids are chasing each other, and he's like, "No, I'm going to go and get a job, and I'm going to do it old school. I'm not going to apply online. I'm going to go and knock on doors and see what's available." Although we do cut to Heatwave. Rory's at the hospital, and he's basically being told that his cancer is terminal. He has cancer.
Oh no.
And the doctor says, like, there's not really much I think we can do at this point, but with your time left, find something that gives you peace, something that you love. And as we hear this conversation, we see him like opening the car and like his like Heatwave outfit's there. It's like, oh dear. He's about to go on the biggest Heatwave of his life because he's got nothing left to live for. So yeah, Wally's running around. He's pissed that his old garage is now a coffee shop. He's like, how many coffee shops does one city need? Like he's
There's never enough.
Yes. I almost feel like that's actually kind of a meta joke, and the last time he was the Flash in a regular ongoing book was like long enough ago that maybe there could be a bit of a commentary there of like how much more coffee shops have dominated the cities.
The only good thing I will say, at least in my experience here, the growth of the chains seems to have stopped being quite so dramatically. Yeah. There is but there are a lot of smaller independent like cafes and comic shops.
Third wave coffee shops are on the rise. Especially ones that have their own roastery, just because they don't,
Yeah, but like over here, like there's been less new Starbucks and Costas.
I couldn't care less about this tangent.
You know what?
This is a horrible
I just want to point
tangent.
out that since last year, Connor went from someone that was like coffee is disgusting to
I drink espresso. I drink espresso pods on a daily basis.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah.
What you're describing, Matt.
Welcome to the cult.
What you're describing, Matt, is someone who was sober. I mean, not sober from everything because he's Connor. That's not take the piss. But you're describing someone who is sober and is now on heroin. That's what you're describing.
Well, no. What happened was I had an energy
healthy, my guy.
problem, and I still needed a caffeine fix, so I exchanged it for a coffee problem, which is cheaper.
It's cheaper. You don't really solve the problem,
but coffee, as long as you're not adding too much, milk and sugar, is 90% water.
Don't add any milk, and occasionally add hazelnut syrup.
Hook it straight to your veins, my guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Veil. All right. So Wally gets a montage of various job interviews, and it's just kind of pointing out all the fun things that don't really make sense about him. Like, there's kind of a gap in his resume, for example, because he was kind of gone, and he doesn't have any experience with computers and things like that. But he goes to the mechanics, and he actually somehow gets a job. Deals with a really horrible old woman who's mad that he's taking so long to fix the car. He's saying, hey, it takes time, you want the car to be tip-top, and she gets really mad, and she yells at him that she's going to give him a bad review on her blog, and he's like...
Oh, that lady.
I know.
How dare she?
She's exactly what you
Bloody
think she is.
influencers.
But then Mr. Terrific, not in costume, shows up in his fancy car and tells Wally that he actually owns... I don't know. I think they've intentionally not made it obvious, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe someone like you.
There's a little squiggle where the logo should be. Anyway, so he basically says, I own this place, so he's like, oh, that's great, thanks for the job. He's like, well, no, I'm going to fire you. He's like, wait, what? He's like, look, there's better things you could be doing with your expertise. Like, this is not a valuable use of your time. There is an interlude of a spear flying through space with, like,
Spear of Destiny?
Maybe it's a Spear of Destiny. It doesn't really say much of it. It just says a blade continues to course through the multiverse. Well, multiverse specifically, but I guess that's a key point beyond it just flying through space. But that's it says the fate of many worlds rests on whoever is unworthy enough to wield it. Unworthy enough is an interesting play in that phrase, I add, which maybe suggests a villain's going to end up picking up. But so basically, Mr. Terrific wants to give Wally a job at one of his fancy lab places, saying that he's an engineer and he's good with tech and mechanical stuff, and he should be there. And because he's working for Mr. Terrific, he doesn't have to worry about rushing off when there's a crime or something. Like, it's understood that he's the Flash. He can go do that. Not that his co-workers don't know that, but he also offers an obscene amount of money. And then there's reports of a fire, so Wally rushes off. And they are here, I have to say, at times. I think Wally in the costume particularly looks quite good. Because it's got rid of all those extra yellow lines that's on Barry's outfit that he's had since New 52. This looks like a clean, classic Flash outfit. The reds really pop. The shadows really add a lot of depth to it. I thought the art in the book's generally pretty good anyway, but I thought it especially looked good when he was in that costume. It just works really well. Then sure enough, he gets to it's a hospital that's on fire. Possibly the hospital that one Mr. Heatwave was previously visiting. And there's fire trucks and all the rest of it, and Wally goes in, saves people, brings them out. But he's like, someone else is still in there. So he goes in, classic superhero shit, and then the cliffhanger is Heatwave knocks him down and says, oh, Matt, your mic's gone.
Matt.
And he's like, hey, it's time for a chat with your old pal Heatwave. I wish we had time to chat, sorry. But your pal Heatwave has things to do. So it's typical cliffhanger. It very much feels almost like the first issue of a run. It's almost like the first arc was very much about cleaning up the continuity and current state of Wally West. And here's where the book's supposed to really kind of start. And it's not doing anything super impressive or magical. It's just giving you a likable Wally West who feels down in his luck. He's got, because Wally always had a bit of that Peter Parker thing going for him.
Yeah.
It's got that with the wife and the kids. It's using a classic villain, and it's teasing a few things. It gives him this new status quo, and yeah, honestly, if you just want a nice Wally West book that feels like a Wally West Flash book, there's really not a lot to like super complain about.
Okay.
It's not reinventing the wheel. I'm not coming out of this like I am Nightwing from Taylor going, oh my god, it's like doing all these wonderful little touches that are super impactful and making me like, but like I was looking kind of forward to see what this issue was going to be because that arc ended and because it did some nice things with Heroes in Crisis where, you know, Roy got a proper goodbye and kind of accepted that his death was coming, and you know, all those things that added to it. And this was just like, no, we're doing a Wally West solo Flash book. He is the Flash. He's going to deal with criminals in the city whilst trying to keep his personal life afloat. And yeah, Mr. Terrific seems like he's going to be a supporting character, which is kind of cool. And yeah, I you know, it is the solidest of solid 7 out of 10s that I can really ask for. Not great enough where I'm like, hey, everyone has to stop what they're doing and read this. It's the thing you need
good,
to read.
We weren't going to.
I think Matt should be tempted at some point.
Matt has enough.
I might if I have time to catch up.
Yeah, but he's only dropped Justice League though soon enough, so he'll be wanting to read the Flash.
Maybe. Real quick, Pete. As you were talking, I was checking Twitter. And the band Living Color posted Cult of Personality on the @Stern show, and one of my mutuals goes, for no particular reason, can you verify if the song has been licensed out recently? No response, but I find that very funny. Yeah.
On that subject, CM Punk did tweet that the Sirius song with no comment, just tweeted that on its own.
Which, if you know, was the Chicago Bulls warm-up song when Jordan was there, played in the arena, All Out's going to happen. And it's a troll job. I feel it. So
he also just went back on Pro Wrestling Tees with a lot of merch, which at the very least is him capitalizing on the fact that people are talking about him again. But
you have new.
But they do have ties to AEW, so I mean, this is not.
Yes, they do.
Those embers in the fire. Actually, on a similar vein for Brian, he was pulled from the next wrestling video game, WWE 2K 2022.
Oh my lord!
Which is probably the biggest sign thus far.
Yeah. Oh my god, American Dragon. I've only heard legends of the American Dragon.
Yeah, apparently there used to be a chant where they would yell, "He's going to kick your effing head in," and I'm just imagining like him in a ring standing across from, I don't know, MJF perhaps, and just having the
anybody except for Hangman.
Very much.
Anybody, because I don't want to see Hangman get his head kicked in.
Sure.
But anybody else, including Punk, because I feel like their meetups in WWE were neither at their peak levels.
No.
So, hooey. Anyways, Flash, good to hear. Once I can get caught up and even try to go back and enjoy Stargirl, which I had started Stars and Stripes.
Oh yeah.
Or Starred and Stripe. Yeah. So fun.
Solid fun time. Like I say, it's you know, because there's a lot of great stuff that's out from DC right now, and this is not in the great category, but this is in the very solid. If you want a Wally West Flash book, it's a nice, fulfilling portion of that, and that's, you know, a happy statement to make in 2021 after all this time. So there you go. Catwoman issue 33, Ram V writing with I've written down Evan Cage on art.
No, it's Blanco back.
Yep, Fernando Blanco.
Do you know what I think this is? I think this is from a previous book where I copied and pasted and just forgot to change the artist. I think that's what happened there.
I think Cagle was the fill-in artist. I don't know if that was last issue or maybe on the annual.
It may have been the last issue because it was copied from the previous month. So, yeah, that's probably what's happened there. Do forgive me. So at the end of the annual, did you read the annual, Matt?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Or was it Carl that wasn't here? I feel like someone wasn't
here.
Connor wasn't here.
I missed the last issue of Catwoman and the annual because they were 2 weeks apart.
Did you read the annual because it was relevant?
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it was Ram V, so I read it.
Yeah. You know,
He's a simple man.
Yes. Well,
I see Ram V's name. I read comic.
I see Ram V, I read Ram V. It doesn't hurt.
Oh, can't wait for Ram V's Red Hood book to come out then.
I'll read it.
You know what? You say that, but how about the point with Jason? Like, Ram V, Jason, hook it to my veins. All right.
You can literally give me any concept right now, and I'll go, whatever my opinion is, and then you tell me Ram V is writing it, and I will buy it.
Well, Ram V's Cold Snap's coming, right? I'm just putting that out there. So we had the explosion of the church, obviously, which the police and the authorities are scrambling to deal with. At the start of the issue, the tensions are high. The magistrate forces are in. Try to deal
really
with...
like how it handles the newscaster.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously that's a very common trope in comics,
Mm-hmm.
to have just the TV news and just have the snippets in panel. Whereas this shows the various hosts, newscasters reading things, but all of it's presented in like text just on a white background along the side. It's not on panel in little word balloons or anything. It has a lot more impact, I feel like, than it usually does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tensions are running high in Alleytown. Selena's, diving across the rooftops. Helicopters are looking for her, so there's lots of searchlights. It's got a mood. Like right away, it feels like things are going down.
Yep.
And of course, Leo's still in the hospital, and that's kind of something that she discovered at the start of the annual. And she finds out that a lot of the kids, along with Riddler, have set up a new base of operations, which is hacked into the electrical grid and the internet and various other systems, so they can actually keep operational. Even if the power's cut to the area, they'll still have access because they've sort of backdoored their way in.
Yeah, and it's at that abandoned train station we've seen a couple of times.
Yes,
and then Future State, it was huge.
Yeah, and we meet of course, this mysterious stranger in the shirt and tie and the trench coat who was helping her before, and we were like, who is this? And we very quickly get an answer here. And I liked how they revealed this, where we see the face kind of bubble up and then it kind of reforms, and then she's like, Clayface? And what gets me about this is that obviously Clayface is like a big part of that Detective Comics run from Tynion, which was fantastic, and we loved him in that book, and we had this kind of redemption kind of aspect. And this idea that he's been searching for other villains who deserve a second chance because he got one from Batman is actually kind of a really nice direction to take his character, and I think.
Right. And the fact he doesn't want to be called Clayface.
Yeah.
He doesn't know, it's Basil Carlo. So it's so good because we knew we hadn't seen the last of Clayface, and it's been a while. Nice. Yeah, it's been a while, but it's nice to see him pop up in this way.
It's even the way he, because he even says to Selena, like, how many second chances have you had because of who you are to him, right? Referring to Batman. So it's like, hey, we're going to try and give some other people some second chances. So he opens the door and he's got his little team assembled, which is Croc, Knockout, who I'm not as familiar with, Firefly, and Cheshire. So we have this. So
I'm pretty sure Knockout is one of the Furies that's defected from Darkseid.
Okay.
She was really big in Simone's Secret Six.
I feel like we saw her peak when we read the terrible Superman story we did on previously, the Emperor Joker.
There you go.
I feel like she was in that knockoff team.
I've jettisoned my memory of that.
It's just enough of the design that makes me think she was on that knockoff, not the Justice League evil team that Joker had.
But yeah, she had a whole thing with Scandal Savage, and it was a whole thing through that run. And it's
really interesting to have Cheshire around with shoes running around as well.
I love that Matt just threw the name Scandal Savage without even pausing or skipping.
None of us even blinked because it's like, yeah, that's fine.
Savage, Vandal Savage's daughter.
I know, but I'm just it's such a comic booky stupid name. It is. Vandal's daughter's called Scandal.
Well, that is what happens when a man lives for millennia and runs out of names. Yeah.
You only have so many Billies and Jennies. When you're a caveman. So here's my thing though. Isn't Firefly a serial arsonist?
Yeah.
It's second chances and whatnot, bro. Like, come on. You set fires for fun.
I mean, maybe.
Cheshire kills people for fun.
I was getting there. She's a poisoner.
I mean, maybe we'll get some context for these four characters and why they've been picked by Clayface to be, given a second chance. And It's the sort of thing where maybe not all four of them will work out in the long run, but it's kind of interesting them all kind of trying.
Croc is due I feel like he's almost like Sabretooth in that way, where every couple years they'll put Sabretooth on the X-Men team. And I feel like Croc needs his moment. Like throw him on the Justice League Dark.
We do get every so often with Croc the idea that he's not a monster inside. It's just society saw what he looked like and turned him into a monster. So I feel like this is not new ground for Croc.
No, so I liked seeing him there, and it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. Although I'm starting to feel like Batman's running out of rogues outside of Penguin and Joker. I feel like everybody's getting a redemption story at some point. No, they're not that bad. Look at Riddler here.
Yeah.
Sure, he's not on the full side of the Angels, but
I mean, to be fair, this is almost back to where Riddler was before New 52.
Yeah, true.
Where he was doing the Enigma detectives.
So it's almost like some of the writers and creatives liked that direction for Riddler and were upset that it was taken away.
Yeah.
So then we cut to the police station, and Hadley's kind of been told to stay at the precinct because they've basically found out that he's got a bit more of a connection to Catwoman, and they're not happy that he was helping her out and trading intel. But when they get a photo of Valet coming from the explosion, like basically he's looked into things and makes the connection that he's a hitman and that Penguin met with him, and he's like, wait a minute, he's been hired to kill Catwoman, someone's got to warn her. So he kind of he goes against orders and he leaves the station. And what's really fun about this is, so Catwoman then is going with Clayface and Croc to the mob boss lady that's been in the run before, right? To basically say, right, we need to try and find a way to evacuate people out of Alleytown. You've got a route that you put your product through. Let's make a deal and use that. And I have to say, this transition here, this reveal when you turn the page, is one of the best comic, oh shit reveal moments for me I think I've had in a long time.
Just that explosion.
I didn't see it coming, because they're walking away and she's sort of looking at them from her little balcony, and the very next page is just them flying forward and everything's orange and yellow and red and black.
It's gorgeous.
She's done for.
Oh, she's dead. Yeah, that boss lady's dead. Yeah.
The other two, you're like, oh, Croc has, that skid, and Clayface is Clayface.
If it wasn't those two, I'd be saying they're dead as well.
Yeah. She's donezo. That's a shock. In the movie,
the only way she's not is if there's something we don't know about her. Which
sure, right?
Is not impossible. This is comics.
What I dug about this though is just that I didn't see it coming at all. I just turned the page and had a legit shock moment of like, oh crap, because part of me,
everything's so normal. The colors are so standard.
For a split second, I even thought it's a different scene. Where are we now with this explosion? Then I realized, no, wait, that's like Catwoman just flying from where she was, and that's Croc and Thingy there.
And then you turn the page, and Valley's there quoting scripture as he does, walking through the burning wreckage, and it's all really scratchy. And
for the best part though is that you start hearing it before we see him, like on the page before, but the reveal, you hear him start the scripture, and then he walks out of the flames.
You don't need to recognize scripture or anything like that, because most of us don't. I probably recognize more than you two, admittedly. But
it's got a sound to it though.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Samuel L. Jackson's monologue from Pulp Fiction isn't actually in the Bible. All right, but it's written in such a way that when you hear it, you're just like, yeah, okay.
It's scripture follows the symbols as a lot of poetry. It's all about cadence and rhythm, and that's down to, I mean, obviously this varies depending on which translation, but generally the translators followed the rules of the time and common things and employed tricks like that to make it sound important.
Let's talk about what this does then, because this transition and the reveal of this explosion and then Valley walking out the fire, because this is done so well and because it is such a genuine surprise in the moment, it sells Valley as a A-tier villain, because this surprise was for Catwoman. Ram V managed to surprise us in the same way that he's surprising Catwoman. So this feels like finally he's making his move. It feels epic. It feels like the culmination of all this teasing that we've had for issues and issues.
He's done playing with his prey.
Yeah. And the only reason, I mean, they have a fight and she gets stabbed like twice, and it's really brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like she doesn't stand a chance. It's very Bane and Batman and Dark Knight Rises, right? Where right away you're like, he doesn't stand a chance. Like Bane's about to beat the shit out of him.
And Catwoman's good. Don't get me wrong. She's never been a top tier fighter, like ever.
No, she's crafty though. She'll hit you in the balls for a shot.
A lot of underhanded strikes and stuff.
Exactly, and but she ain't this guy who was trained by the Order of Saint Dumas.
Yeah, he is a top tier killer.
Yeah, what's funny is he is. You brought up Bane and Dark Knight Rises, but it's very much Nightfall too, which brought us Azrael, right? Like it's very Bane there that she's worn down. She's worried about her friend. She's completely taken off by this explosion. Now she's got stabbed and slashed. And
hell, even her narration when they're on the way for this meeting is about her kind of like, I'm doing all these things that I never would have done before. Maybe the Catwoman's truly gone. I think the boss lady even says, careful. It looks like you're almost playing the hero here by all the selfless and like concern that you've got for people. So it's interesting.
And she is dead here if Clayface and Croc don't step in.
Yeah, Clayface obviously dives at Valet, right? He's about to decapitate her, by the looks of it. And Clayface swoops in, and Catwoman like crawls to the edge because they're at like the docks, right? This is all the cargo place of the docks, and Catwoman falls in the water, and Valet walks off. Who plants a grenade in Clayface. So obviously Clayface isn't dead; he can reform, but it takes him down.
Slows him down.
Yeah, it takes him down for a few minutes at least. But
very T-1000.
But as he walks over to the edge of the pier, he's like, "Oh, how many lives do you have left? I wonder." Kind of like, you only survived here because this was lucky. Like he's kind of looking at this like not like. Because every other time he's not actually tried to kill her. This is the first time he's actually tried, and so he's kind of counting this as like, oh, she somehow escaped. Like that was he wasn't expecting that necessarily. But and she kind of rounds out her narration. Although now it's not in the narration boxes. Now it's kind of in the water. The text is just in there. And it gives it the impression that it's kind of drifting away from her, almost like she is about to pass out and possibly die because she's in the water. And the last page, the reveal is that there's someone there for her, someone to help that cares about her, and of course it's the full page spread that reveals that Batman is in the water and about to reach for her. And I did like the caption at the end here saying "Next, the return to rooftops," which is a nice little
that's good,
nice little callback.
Shocker. Ramby's good.
I think what's so good about this though is that they've held back because it's comics. Batman could be showing up every issue if Ram V wanted him to. But they've held back. And they've said, we're going to make it feel special when Batman steps in.
Are we sure it's Batman, though? Are we sure she's just not hallucinating?
No, we're not sure.
Not sure, but...
There's definitely a stronger implication by saying a return to rooftops.
Yeah.
But you could tell me it's not Batman, but this near-death experience prompts
well,
us to return to see
it's what she's saying, that she tried so hard to be different. Right, and it's almost because of Batman's influence, and then so it's to me how I read this is Batman pulling her out of being Catwoman and into Selena Kyle, and whether he's there or not, that old Selena's dead. Right, she drowned in the river.
Yeah, that metaphor works either way, but I think there's a possibility he's not really there, but I think he is.
He could be.
I think it works, and besides, like. This is all going on in Gotham. There's explosions happening left and right. An explosion just happened at this location. You think Batman's just ignoring this?
I love that he has this idea of Alley Town. He's like, well, I won't go there unless it's an emergency. Oh, a church blew up. Oh, the docks blew up. All right, best I gotta get there.
Yeah, I also suspect Batman is there, but if they tell me he's not, I'm not gonna be mad about it.
No.
Yeah. It would even surprise me if Clayface has got like a bat beeper on him or something. Like,
still.
He was on the team for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which is why I say him specifically and not, not Croc.
What if it wasn't Croc? It was Matches Malone dressed as Croc.
Or hell, what if it's even just like Riddler, who's like, anonymously sort of sent a message to Batman? I don't know.
She's in over her head.
How is Ram V this good?
Ramvi's
don't know.
very, very good. And they did mention Shoes, by the way, because they mentioned Shoes was off like fiddling with satellites or something like that briefly. But they did make a point of reminding us that Shoes is around just after they introduced Cheshire.
I think they told us that before we saw Cheshire.
It was just before.
A couple of pages before,
and that's very intentional. They wanted you to have Shoes in your mind a little bit.
But like, just again to be like, but she's not there yet. You know, this meeting is going to happen, but not right this second. You know, not this issue.
Yeah.
Like, I love that we're getting comics written by people that were reading comics the same time I was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the stuff with Cheshire and Leanne and Roy and all of this stuff, and it's working its way into continuity now. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's neat. Of course, Carr doesn't know about who Shoes is though, because he didn't read that anthology yet. So
I honestly did not. I did not go back to that anthology at any point. I was like, I've got the important information. I'm not going to go and buy a whole $10 anthology for a, let's be honest, about a 6 or 8 page story by Rambi at best, I'm assuming.
Art was fantastic though in this. You know, the explosion stuff, of course, was wonderful. The entire fight that plays out afterwards is great. There's mood at the start because of the riot, because of the spotlights, as Catwoman's jumping through it. Like, and the serialized story and the way it made me kind of gasp when I realized what that explosion page turn was a legitimately great, like, oh shit moment.
This book is, or this run specifically, is hands down Blanco's career best work so far that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen Blanco for years at this point of working at DC pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, he was a solid workhorse artist that was like, okay, sure, you know, he'll be cool, but it was never a standout. But now, these issues are regularly in contention for, you know, best art of the week, no matter what they're up against, almost. Even on stacked weeks like this one might be. This is going to be in contention.
Yeah. All right, Matt, what are you rating Catwoman?
I mean, this one a 9.
Connor?
Yeah, same 9.
I will also concur with the 9. So, highest recommendations. The way it sort of like plays with the idea that Catwoman's in over her head because she's not herself anymore, combined with the fantastic art and the storytelling, the pacing and the reveals, and even the way it builds with having Hadley like a scene before go, shit, I need to go warn her, but he's too late. It happens before he can get to her.
This is the most I've ever cared about Catwoman as a character, and I credit all that to Ram V. And I wasn't going to read this. I mean, I had to catch up. You guys were reading it, so just how much that it's turned.
I'd like to think that is the benefit of this podcast in general, where not everyone's reading every book, but you know, and I get why people might not have been reading a Catwoman book, but maybe after it's going to be coming up on a year now of us praising the ever living shit of this book every damn issue. Maybe
well, he took over at 25, right?
26, I believe, technically. Well, he did part of 25. That's right. He had part of 25. So yeah, 25 onwards is realistically what you're reading.
So coming up on a year then.
Yeah. So, yeah. All
right. Well, it was going to be Blue and Gold issue 1, but I don't know if we got time for that. Maybe we should move on.
Here, we'll do a quick one. Me and Connor kind of already pre-gamed this beforehand.
I'm kidding. Right.
Yeah, no.
Pardon. I need to do a proper introduction, Matt, right? For the cut version. Blue and Gold, issue 1, Dan Jurgens and Ryan Sook on the art. This is basically the pair getting back together. Booster Gold is trying to rescue the Justice League, who are trapped on an alien ship, and it is the current continuity Justice League. And basically gets in over his head, and Skeets goes to gets Ted Cord to come and help, which gets them both out of the fight together. Honestly, the big thing here is the banter, the dialogue, and the constant commentary from the people who Booster is streaming to on Instagram.
One of which may or may not be Guy Gardner.
He says Guy Gardner's the best.
Yes, I'll be honest. I read that message and thought, that is the worst person
And then you look at the screen name and it says GG. And you're like, hang on a second.
Yes, I don't trust this at all.
Booster in the age of social media. Come on, what's not to love?
This is exactly what this book should be, which means there's not really a lot to say about it. It's if you enjoy Blue and Gold, these two together. If you enjoy, especially like Jurgens' take on that, if you're a fan of, I can't believe it's not the Justice League era, you will very much enjoy this book, without a doubt.
And the fact that at the end, right, it's Ted who overloads the alien ship with a bunch of information to basically free the Justice League so they can then free themselves and get off the ship. And the fact that the Justice League offer him a role, but Booster think it's for both of them, and they don't want Booster because it's Booster. And
you're mistelling us a little bit. Just I think you need to clarify that Booster's not in this scene. Booster is talking all issue that they're going to beg both of them to be on the Justice League. Yeah. And Booster is basically like one of the Justice League intentionally distract him by taking him away so they can offer Blue Beetle a role in the Justice League. But he's like, we're going to get join the Justice League. He's like, no, not Booster. He's an asshat. Just you. And he's like, well, no Booster Gold, no Blue Beetle. And
the single best art sequence in this book, and one of the best all week, is the moment where Ted's like, just me, but Booster's the one who, and then it has all just the headshots of everyone cutting between, like, no way, and irritating, obnoxious, and Batman's just there, just glaring silently, and it ends on Ted's going.
So I love that for their friendship, because we haven't had these two together in forever. Like Infinite Crisis, Countdown to Infinite Crisis, right? Yeah. We've had a little bit here and there, sprinklings of timey-wimey. Yeah. But so to have these two back together and then to have this emotional friendship beat, I really like that.
And Booster never finds out. Blue Beetle doesn't tell him that. He says, "No, I didn't want us. We're not in their league or whatever." Because some of the funny commentary throughout is like they keep talking about how it's we were on the Justice League, but it was when it was all B and C listers. Like we're not really. But then when they see the Justice League, like, hey, I don't even recognize some of these members. Maybe we can be on this team. This is a real mix of characters.
Yeah, it's very true, isn't it?
It is, and so Sook's art is really good. I love his Blue Beetle costume. It looks. It's nice to see this version.
Clean, and then there's the slightly heavy inks on top of it that just give it a depth and kind of a sense of weight to it.
Yeah, and even just the end with Booster and Ted walking through the crowd and fading into the crowd as the sort of the magic hour sun is kind of like covering them in light, and they're just kind of talking about how they're going to start their own little team, and they're arguing over the name. Like we sound like an extermination service, or something like that.
You're the sidekick. No, we've been over this. Yeah.
No, I can't deny that I had fun with the dialogue in this and the way it bounced back and forth. It was a very fun read. It was a little bit of a longer read because it was a bit in the wordy side, but it was the type of wordy where the words were enjoyable, so it wasn't like it didn't feel like a chore because of that.
Yeah, it's fun, and then it sets up what the besides them, the story of these aliens go back to their home world, and
Yeah, the aliens that were trying
to vengeance.
Yeah, the aliens that were trying to kidnap the Justice League, basically swear vengeance on the one who ruined their plans. So, they're going to be coming for the blue and the gold. That's the idea.
I love
it.
It's a very fun book. It really is. I love this issue, and for anyone who is newer to comics and has read this issue and enjoyed it, but didn't read the the Demise Giffen Justice League stuff in the first place, maybe go give it a try. You would very much enjoy that if you enjoyed this.
Sure, you can find it digitally, but I found my Can't Believe It's Not the Justice League was ruined. It's out of print in trade, and I'm very sad.
I think they're reprinting it at the minute. I believe they're reprinting it in the current style of thick trades that DC have been doing. It's also all on Infinite, if you want to check it out online on there, on the subscription rather than buying all the singles or trades digitally.
Oh, good.
No, it's such a great fun issue, but there's so little to critique, compared to some of the other comics out this week.
Like,
There's no depth to this in the way there is Catwoman.
Even though Blowhard Booster's not my favorite, I love the time traveling hero booster the most that Jurgens did.
Mm-hmm.
Jurgens returning to this version of just the completely clueless, where Skeets has to remind him you can't stream all the time because the aliens will also know what you're doing.
And he's like, good call.
Good point. Yeah.
Or even little moments where he calls Ted and he's like, hey, secret identity. He's like, no, stream is paused. Don't worry, stream is paused.
They're on an ad break.
Yeah. Just the fact that Jurgens has worked.
The fact that he keeps hawking his Patreon. They don't call it that, but that's effectively what he's doing.
Basically.
He's got they've got slightly off names for all the social medias.
Mm-hmm.
Although, while we're on the subject, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you feel so inclined.
That one's got Please Pay Me.
Truly the booster gold of this show.
Please Pay Me, which is also what Patreon is just basically known as.
Yeah, well, yes. But if you like Booster saving people, you pay his Patreon.
Yeah.
If you like me making fun of Connor, you pay for the MailFuzz TV Patreon. That's
all right.
Hard to argue with that logic.
Blue and the gold.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 7.5. It's solid.
Connor?
I had a blast with it. I'll give it an 8.
I'll agree with Matt here on the 7.5, I think. But it's solid at what it's doing. Like, it was a fun, pleasant read. So there you go. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, issue 2. Tom King writing with Bilquis Evely on the art. Continuing this narration of the young character, but obviously clearly in her older age, thinking back to this time that she spent with Supergirl. And they're traveling through space on what is effectively a space coach, which even starts with a young character having to argue with an alien who's resting on her shoulder, without consent.
I do not know this character's name because I just started calling her Matty Ross after a while.
Yeah, well.
Because this is True Grit, and it just is. And to the point where because I was not here for the first issue, so I read both these issues today, and I realized halfway through the first issue, before it kind of clicked that it was True Grit specifically, I started hearing the narration in that voice, in her voice. It probably doesn't help that I listened to the audiobook of True Grit a few months ago. Also, by the way, after listening to the audiobook as well, Steinfeld's casting in that movie was phenomenal. But I mean, obviously, she was universally recognized as great in that movie anyway. But I was just hearing that voice for this entire, all these narration boxes. I do think it's a little heavy on the narration boxes, but
yes,
there is a heavy narration. It does give it a kind of a tone though that is very different to most comics. The way it kind of tries to, because when she's here on this and she's like, hey, my companion is Supergirl and she will defeat you and whatever, she tries to leverage that, and Supergirl just doesn't give a shit. I mean, what's so funny about it is, Supergirl is sort of in that True Grit role, but obviously she's still Supergirl, and there's moments of that later on in the issue. Because one of the things at the start of the narration here is that this character talks about how she was the youngest sibling, and all the other siblings were boys, and they only got to wash once per week. And by the time she got to do it, it was just this filthy water that it went through all these other people. And talks about how people in the town would hold their noses at them because they thought they were all smelly. And
the point of that story might be my favorite part of this book, though, is that she's saying this because she knows what it was like to be really smelly. So if this coach that they're writing in was making her gag, it was really bad.
Well, there's that. But the larger, more important thing, though, is that the payoff to it is later when Supergirl notices she's not washing her hands in the bathroom. And it's this kind of sad thing where she's just never realized how easy it is for other people to just have access to a sink and soap and just do this whenever you want, do it this willy-nilly. And Supergirl sort of teaches her to. And there's a great sequence of panels going down the page just showing her washing her hands, and it's kind of this weird surreal moment for her. Her hands are nice.
It was
and
like
clean.
a PSA a year late.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what inspired it too. You know.
Yeah, all those
King-
posters and videos that were everywhere last year.
King's like, all right, yeah, that's what we're doing.
This is the King and Evilly take on a. Oh, it was going around last year with the lyrics of whatever song you chose to the correct hand washing method. This was just that version.
Okay, sure. I never thought of that once, so I was reading it, but okay.
I'm sorry for living in the real world.
I'm sorry for just reading the intent of the story as I was reading it.
Anyway.
Yes, anyway. So they get to a station for like a pit stop. Alien basically tries to pick a fight with Supergirl because Superman threw some of his buddies in the Phantom Zone, probably justifiably, knowing Superman. And the character mentions that this is something that happened a lot on this trip, and she's not going to mention the rest of them, but this is just the example of the first time. They make it clear that this, like, they'd constantly come up to her because, they're too scared to fight Superman. But they assume that Supergirl is easier. The Supergirl is going to be a bit weaker, and they can take advantage of that. And, and Supergirl's really catty about it. I kind of enjoyed her snarky attitude here. I'm wearing a big yellow S on my chest. Although I would argue that the S is red. It's the negative space that's yellow, but that's.
Yeah, but
it's an nitpick. It's a nitpick, but yeah. So if I'm not Supergirl, then who the f do you think I am? Before taking care of him, I think this issue worked a bit better than the first issue for me because it felt like it was more because we'd already done the setup of what there was so much to introduce in the first issue, whereas this felt like it was just more of a deep thought analysis of the early days of this trip, and it kind of worked better in that sense for me, where we have some context already. We have Supergirl. There's even kind of like a homage to the Angel Supergirl stuff from the 90s here.
I picked that up.
Yeah, because the encounter does this like space dragon thing outside
which is gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
Like, the way Evilly draws it, this blue swirl in space. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's outside the coach or one of the stations, and basically Supergirl says, "Okay, who's got some of those red pills?" And turns out it's red kryptonite in a pill. And for regular, other races, it gives them a psychotic or not psychotic, a psychedelic effect. But for a Kryptonian, of course, it does other things. And I feel like red kryptonite like changes every time it comes up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this take.
This is more of a Silver Age where it's a random effect.
Yeah, I'd never heard this. Right, this idea that if she like dreams something or thinks about something. On the red kryptonite, it'll come true. But I kind of stopped thinking about it too much when I turned the page and saw the gorgeous art of her with the big fire angel wings outside in space, like dealing with this dragon. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let this slide because this is kind of nice.
Yeah. Because the art of it is just too gorgeous to overthink it.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering how. Yeah, how does the girl retelling the story know? You know what I mean? That's also.
She was looking out the window.
No, I know that, but I'm talking about like with the red kryptonite. Like, did Kara explain this to her?
I'm sure she does.
The dialogue comes from Kara saying, sometimes you turn into a monster, sometimes your hair grows too long, but it's worth a try.
It's a speech bubble.
Right. Yeah. No, I know that. I'm talking because this is all a retelling, correct?
Yeah.
As she's going through, right? So did she explain it just in that way, and that's the way that she's, Well, no, that's the way she remembers it all these years later.
The narration's coming from present day or the future, but everything we're seeing in the panels, but when there's actual dialogue, that's just what dialogue was said.
Okay, I'm still. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's confusing.
This is not confusing.
Oh, it's not confusing. I'm just saying that when it comes to the red kryptonite stuff, where Pete's like, this is a new take on it, right, and stuff. Like, I'm just.
As far as I know.
In the vibe of it, it's also. This is her retelling the story, so it's not like we're seeing. Anyways, it's just not important.
Okay.
We can move on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Yeah, so she goes this, and she narrates about how like she thought she couldn't be impressed by anything, or that she'd seen everything on her planet, and turns out she was a damn fool because this is like a whole other level. And that's when we get to the hand washing scene, where she's like, "Well, you've not been washing your hands," and she says this, in the narration, she's like, this was like something that would become really apparent over time as these moments of kindness, because she is still Supergirl, and she just teaches her how to wash her hands, and it's just a simple little heartwarming sequence that I wasn't expecting that story about how she like would only get to wash once a week in such horrible conditions to come back in kind of a way that felt like, I don't know, like she's like finally getting to see like the other side of the world, in a very literal way, through this action and through this like just ease of use and opportunity. And
I love that Kara's able to pass it on to her, and he's like, "Yeah, I was on one planet where it was almost like an acid because their skin was real strong, so you have to be careful. Hopefully, it's water."
Yeah,
I like that little moment.
There's some good extra detail. Yeah, just sort of like if you're on another planet, make sure it's still just soap and water they use, but. And then we have the sort of the bookend almost of the main part of it, which is once again there's an alien leaning on her shoulder, and this guy's not really getting talked down like the first one was, and we just get the elbow coming in at super speed, and Supergirl just goes straight back to sleep, but this guy's got bloody nose now. So it's a clear distinction from that first scene, because this time Supergirl, even though she's still looking like she's sleeping, did step in, is paying attention, and did look out for her. So there is kind of that bond forming as we go,
and then we get a couple of pages that pick up from the end of the last issue, which I was grateful for.
It kind of explains like the decision to go on this journey and what the goal of it is, beyond just getting the guy who murdered her father,
right? Because we ended the first issue that was still like around her little ship, and then the next, the start of this issue we're on the big coach with everyone. I definitely did a double take. I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, I figured it was coming at some point, and sure enough, it is here at the end of the book, which is that Crypto is dying because they need a sample of the poison. Because if the doctor can get the exact poison that was used, they can probably fix it and cure Crypto. So there's kind of there's like a noble goal of saving Crypto in all this as well, but this is what led to Supergirl accepting this mission to go after this villain. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, it's a neat issue, I think, because I think the first issue suffered for most people because it just wasn't what anyone expected. No one was expecting this weird True Grit like kind of like analogy told through Supergirl, but now that I think we know what it is, I think going into this issue I was able to just kind of appreciate this issue for completely what it was, and thought it was well told.
Yeah, I think this is pretty fantastic. I think I would enjoy it even more if you took out about 30% of the narration boxes. Just the narration boxes specifically. All the dialogue's fine, but so much narration.
When you're trying to read that much and someone at work is trying to talk to you because they don't respect the international symbol of book in face means leave me alone.
Yeah, people don't do that with their earphones in ears.
No, which I'm going to have to start doing, but...
It doesn't work.
Yeah, so like, I agree with Connor on that one, that, however, that's my own personal reading. It's not like I didn't find them. It's just, it's very hard to keep it going when you're constantly being interrupted and you look down and there's so many narration boxes.
Like for me, it's not that any individual one is bad. I think all of them are well written. They all have that really distinct voice, and it gives it a good flow and through line. But sometimes I'm just like, oh man, just get out of the way of the art. Like that page with the angel wings. There's like 10 narration boxes on that. Like that needed like 2 at most on that page. Just let that be a big, gorgeous page.
I get what you're saying. It kind of fits the tone that it's going for, and that, like, when I think of True Grit and I think of that narration, I think of it being constant. I think of it being like. I think that's one of those weird things of it's more prevalent in your memory than it actually is. Maybe it probably is, but yeah, I mean, I get objectively, I get it. I do get it. I don't know if it bothered me too much in the grand scheme of things. What I will say about the art there, particularly with that space dragon stuff and the fire wings, is that I think what works so well about that is that because those couple of pages are very fantastical and it's very ethereal because it's all this sort of almost not abstract but very
really soft lines in comparison to everything else.
Soft lines. There's no boxes. It's all just this big splash and it's all very colorful and magical looking. I think what works so well about that is because the whole point of our main character here is saying that she thought she'd seen everything, but then this sight was like something she'd never seen before. The art was intentionally, I mean, it's still Bilquis, but the art was very, it was as in regular comic book panels. It was all really normal looking things in the context of a sci-fi anyway. We're on ships and stuff and there's aliens walking about, but in very easy to understand context where there's people at a bar or there's whatever, they're in a bathroom. But you get to that few pages and it's like, oh, this is fantastical and otherworldly and something that it would be like seeing, I don't know, like a giant waterfall for the first time and you've never been near that, or seeing something, something spectacular in nature. It really had that vibe to it.
Especially that page before Supergirl goes out to fight it, where you see it on the same page as the ship, where the ship is very much a traditional sci-fi, hard lines, angles, very square, and then you mechanical, and then you have this dragon. It's very circular, flowing, kind of wraps around itself, and it feels so completely different and at odds with the current environment that it just sticks out.
Yeah. And I think you might even argue there's kind of a bit of symbolism here for Supergirl and what she is in the world around her in many ways. And what a lot of stories with Supergirl tend to kind of like give her as a vibe is they want her to feel like she is the special person there who is going to make things better for people. That's definitely something we see. I think specifically with her, I mean, you could apply that to almost any superhero in a lot of ways, really, but I feel like Supergirl in particular, I feel like has had that quite a few times in various stories that I've read about her. Where they'll go for that kind of like that compassion and that kind of those acts of kindness, but with a bit more attitude than Clark has, because she is someone who wasn't raised by the Kent. She's got a little bit more of a snarkiness to her, and that's okay.
Yeah, and obviously we've praised Evilly a lot, and rightly so. We should give a shout out to Lopez as well with the colors, because they are stunningly gorgeous colors throughout this issue.
Yep. So Matt's been a little quiet though. Did you enjoy this issue, Matt?
Yeah. No, I did. I could not take it all in because as I was trying to read it in the crunch today, I was constantly being interrupted. So, yeah, I didn't get the fall. I'm gonna have to probably give it a reread.
Yeah, I don't think I can put the blame on Tom King for your being interrupted.
Absolutely not. That's why I'm being quiet, because I can't. The stuff that I did read that I did like. You know what I mean? So, it's good. And Evilly art, we all know where I stand on that. So.
Yeah, she did some issue of was it Batman?
Have you ever heard of it?
I think it was Batman.
No, it was not Batman.
All right, maybe Cold Snap. But that is that's Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow. What are you giving it, Matt?
Despite what I just said, I did enjoy it. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Connor,
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Which says a lot given my narration box concern. It would have, with the less of them, would have been a 9 easily.
I will probably agree with the 8.5 on this. But I think it's really good. I think it's saying something that, yeah, it's probably like third or fourth out of the current Tom King books, but the standard he's got right now is actually exceptionally high. So it's not nothing to be sneezed at.
Which is the one for you that it's in competition with? Because third or fourth out of the, I think there is 4, right? So
yes,
which is the other one that would be in that lower half?
Oh, Batcat for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Rorschach's number 1, Strange Adventures is number 2. There's no question in my head. I mean, this could rise above like that. This could get up there with them.
We're only 2 in.
We are a quarter of the way through this now.
Yeah, you always try to make that distinction. That doesn't matter.
I was just kind of Mayo point of, we're already 2 in. It's not only 2 in.
Yeah, we're only 2 in.
This is a glass.
I've been up since 4. I'm cranky.
This is a glass 2 in, glass 8 to go thing.
6 to go.
6 to go, whatever. Shut up,
we
okay?
shouldn't laugh at his problem. We shouldn't laugh, but it's hilarious.
Connor's good with measuring things for glasses. There's a lot of cocktails and booze drinks.
Real quick, side tangent on this.
God.
Connor, have you had Buffalo Trace?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently it's very hard to find now.
In the US, I have heard that, because basically it was a very affordable bourbon that was punching above its price range.
Yeah.
And it got real popular, and they couldn't keep up with demand in the US. UK, it's still its price has risen very, very slightly. No more than any other alcohol has. Honestly, I'm more inclined to put it down to duty costs instead of actual demand. It's still one of the cheapest widely available bourbons over here, and I'm very grateful for that.
Good friend Jared has had me looking all around my.
I literally walked at any shop in around me, and I can be 80% sure at any time they will have a bottle.
It's gonna hurt. How about the Eagle Rare? They're more aged one.
It's harder to get over here.
Hard. Okay.
But bourbon's a weird one where distribution over here, because obviously we have to import it. It's always significantly more expensive for the import costs. So we tend to not have a lot of bourbon choice over here. Like, it's very limited.
Gotcha.
You can get it, but it costs probably twice what a bottle of Jack Daniels would, for example.
Gotcha. I was just wondering. I forgot to ask. I was going to message you, and I thought, why not now? We're making fun of his alcoholism.
Because we're going to the Patreon books, Matt. We're near the finish line. Let's not.
Let's go.
Extend.
You guys talk.
Yes. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, our patrons at some of the higher tiers can make myself and Connor read a book, and we're both going to do one today. Connor is going to talk about Harley Quinn, issue 4.
Unfortunately, I am. Obviously, written by Stephanie Phillips, and then the reason I am reading this trash, art by Riley Rosmo. This issue picks up right where we left off, with Harley down in the sewers chatting with Grundy, who isn't just doing the Grundy rhyme, he's kind of doing Hulk speak for a lot of it. And they're playing chess for some reason, and Harley has one of the trolls, the little things with the hair.
The
little toys.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I think it's trolls. She has one of those. And she's all, feeling sorry for herself, and she accidentally pops the head off the troll, and she's like, "Oh, I break everything." And the big recurring theme that comes up this issue is Solomon Grundy says, "So she goes, no, you Harley Quinn," and she repeats back, "Me Harley Quinn," and that's kind of a big theme for this issue with her. The idea of her kind of taking that back for herself, but it's a lot of her just being like, "Oh, I don't know, everyone's a Bat character now. Should I really be a Bat character?" There's a weird joke that I do not like, where she's saying, "Oh, I'm not Batman or Batgirl or Batdog or whoever else Bats is slapping his symbol on these days," and then Solomon Grundy interrupts her to say, "Whomever." She's getting grammar lessons from Solomon Grundy. Really?
Bat Quinn. Harley Bat.
I don't think there's a good name for it.
Bat Jester.
It's bad. But yeah, no, I don't. This is a really common joke. Whoever, and then someone slightly unexpected correcting it with whomever.
Mm-hmm.
But Solomon Grundy, really, not good. And then Grundy checkmates her.
I can tell you right now that I have never said the word whomever. So I've definitely
That's because you definitely needed correcting at some point then.
yes, I definitely corrected at some point. And there's all the shits I give. There's right here.
Don't mind me. I'm just checking the NHL draft that's going on right now.
Yeah.
You're such a
I'm
parody
intrigued.
of yourself.
I also have the Olympic badminton on the other screen. But so the rest of the issue continues. We get a bit of Kevin at Strange's place. He's in a straitjacket and being experimented on. And if there's one thing I hate more than Riley Rosmo art, it's Riley Rosmo art doing psychedelic shit. Because it does a wacky layout. The only thing I will praise this layout for, and it's more of a saving grace rather than praise, is it has arrows of where I should read it, and the panels are numbered so that I don't get lost. And it's a saving grace. It's a saving grace and praise in the sense that I needed that. It's a problem in that you shouldn't need that. It feels like it's fixing a problem that they've caused themselves. It didn't really need to be there. Frustrating. But Harley's then coming to rescue him, and there is one funny beat here that I will give it, where she gets there and there's some goons outside picking up the delivery of whatever shit Strange is getting delivered, and Harley's she sees them, and she's coming up to, but you don't see Harley then, and we cut to the goons and you see the Batman shadow on the wall, and it goes I am the night, and then it cuts up and it's Harley up on the rooftop wearing a cape, and she's putting her fingers up by the side of her head to make bat ears in the shadow. I'm guessing she's very good at the bat voice. If it made because it works, they run away. They just drop what they're doing and literally just run away. It's like, nah, I'm not getting involved with Batman. She must be very good at the bat voice. But that was mildly amusing. She breaks in, she's looking around, she gets into the lab. Some horrible layouts again where things that should be inventive, like she knocks a beaker of chemicals onto the floor, and the crash, the crash of the sound effect makes up the panel of the beaker, but it kind of just clashes. It's not neat, and because the word, it's a word where a lot of the details are in the middle of the letters, like C, for example. It's in the middle that defines that it's a C and not an O. So you really have to look through the word to see what's actually happening. It was really awkward. Inventive layouts gone wrong for me. But she runs away, running from guards, and she gets in a lift. And I say lift because she uses the word lift for some reason. I didn't think Americans did that.
Maybe occasionally.
She's there going, ugh, there's nothing worse than an overcrowded lift when they all get in with her. And then on the next page, while we're fighting, what is a reasonably nice panel layout where it goes down in panels, but the floors are going up, and you kind of see it going as it goes. It's got a little bit of an elevator fight going on, and she uses the word elevator on this page. Like, it's so weird, like to flip back and forth like that from one page to the next.
She's just been watching a lot of Downton Abbey or something. I don't know.
They have lifts on that show?
That was the joke, Matt. That was the joke.
Okay.
To be fair, they probably did. Not for people, obviously, but they probably had
dumb waiters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never watched a single episode.
I'll be honest, I thought it was set like 100 years ago, so I assumed there was no lifts.
I mean, non-people lifts like that.
It's really just fancy Britain.
Sure, but we're talking about people lifts, though. We're talking about because I buy an American would call like a small bit of like cargo lift a lift because it's An elevator tends to be designated for a people lift.
Is that the distinction in your mind between elevator and lift? One's for cargo, one's for people.
No, I mean I can interchange either of them. I don't really care. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just like I just wanted to crack a joke. I thought I'll think of a British show and I'll think of the one that definitely does not have a lot of elevators in it.
They're rich. They probably had some. Sorry, bad example. And they're picking it. But anyway, back to this issue. This is almost at the end. She gets to the top, and who should be there, of course, but Hugo Strange and some goons. And this is where I was very confused for about half a second. So you know how usually on the last page of a comic it will have a next something or other, something to make it very clear that you're on the last page in a single issue. They tend to be removed for the trade, of course, but in a single issue they'll tend to have something little designated being like next time this, whatever. There's none of that. So it's not like a full page splash or anything that's like, oh, this is obviously the last page. It's Harley, Hugo's there going, oh, I'm so pleased you could join us. And she, drops an F-bomb. Censored, of course. And then I turned the page thinking there was more. And I was very confused because what I was greeted with was the Pride splash page advert, with all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But reading from left to right, I didn't zoom out and immediately realize. I say zoom out, I don't mean physically. I mean like with my eyes. I didn't unfocus to kind of take in the full splash. I just looked, and the first character you see is Batwoman, and then I was like, wait, what's going on here? And then I realized, oh, I'm on the advert. The issue's over. It was very confusing for not having something to make that clear that I was at the end of the issue.
I like that you referred to zooming out with your eyes.
Yeah,
that's something people do.
I feel like that made sense. Like I'm on a single page, and then a double page comes, and I don't refocus to look at the entire double page immediately. I'm still zoomed in on where I would be reading the first panel. Essentially, my eyes are ready to read the panel. And yeah, I didn't catch there was an advert right away because there was nothing at the end of the issue to inform me that it was the last page. And it was very confusing for a good second or so where I had no idea what I was reading.
I hope the next issue of Harley Quinn at the last page just says, "End of issue, moron," as the final caption.
Issue's done, dummy.
I'll allow it. That would be fair. Overall, though, issue is... This is the first one since the first issue where I've liked most of the writing. Didn't like the first bit with Grundy, but I like what everything was with Harley after that, with her kind of trying to find her place. Kind of, is she part of the Bat family or not? Going out and doing something heroic and actually, trying to rescue someone. The Batman shadow gag with the I am the Night. I like all that stuff. The art is possibly the worst it's been. The whole book with awful layouts, horrible psychedelic trip stuff that is actively confusing to read if you don't follow their markers that they had to put in afterwards. Yeah, it's a rough one. Because of that, I'll probably give it a 4. Maybe a 4.5.
All right. Well, that'll take me on to my Patreon bit for the week. So I actually had the second patron sort of chime in and make me read Joker as well. So there's 2 issues of Joker that I'm doing this month, which is effective because it means that this issue that I'm about to talk about, issue 5, is actually this month's issue that came out last week, meaning that next month when I do it for a patron, it'll be the brand new issue on the week it releases. So that's cool. And this issue is cruel. It is a cruel issue. Why is it cruel, you might ask, dear co-hosts and listeners and viewers around the world? You were thinking about it. You were thinking in your head, why is it cruel? Because it's not what's-his face on art, right? It's not.
Yeah,
is this the Francavilla issue?
Frank, this is yeah. I was looking for the artist. I was forgetting. Yes, this is a Francavilla issue.
Gillen March was the one.
Gillen March is the one. Yes, that was the name I was looking for. It's not Gillen March. So I got to page 1 of this and went, this looks quite nice. What's going on? What's happening here? And it is a flashback issue. Is there's a reason.
I believe that's the idea. Every handful of issues to give March a break, they are doing a Francavilla flashback issue every so often.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Pete, make sure you don't get whiplash.
But no, I start this, and not only obviously is it really nice, but Francavilla's style and the way the coloring is in this, which is pretty much all blacks, oranges for Gordon's hair and mustache, but also other things as well.
So it's Francavilla coloring,
and then blues. Yes, but you've got that. But the other thing that goes along with this though is that it actually makes it feel a lot more stylistically like Year One, and given that so much of this book is about Gordon, and it feels like it's meant to be harkening back to Gordon and be a direct kind of continuation of the Gordon character from Year One, this feels far more fitting, and I kind of wish the whole book had this art. If the whole book had this art, then this book would be a force to be reckoned with, because the story has been pretty solid, and the characterization of Gordon has been pretty solid, and then in this art. This is a fantastic issue. That's maybe the best issue of this book so far. And not just because of the art either. The art obviously does add a lot to it. It makes it a very pleasing book to look at. But this issue, it starts off and Gordon's at outside of a building. There's some sort of situation going on with some cops and some armed suspects. And they might wait for backup, but Gordon says, no, screw this, I'm going in. It kind of plays hero in the same way that you think Gordon... Whereas the other cops are like, no, we're waiting for backup. And he ends up diving at a guy and they go out the window. But he's effectively saved a cop's life by doing this, who was lying shot on the floor. And then Harvey Dent shows up, young Harvey Dent. And he's like, hey, here's the cowboy, the hero, jumping around. And for a while here, I'm thinking, okay, this is really solid stuff. It feels like kind of a post-Year One. It was Captain Gordon now. He's working with Harvey Dent. We're doing this stuff. But what the hell does this have to do with Joker so far? So up until this fourth or fifth page, there's not, and it's like, hey, the perp you got, he's squealed about Falcone. There's going to be a Falcone shipment happening in a couple of nights, and we should go do something. Maybe even call that quote unquote friend in. And he's like, yeah, I'll get a message out tomorrow, and it's like, okay, this is all super interesting, but then we go to but there is a brief mention of the Joker where Harvey says that they've decided not to try him. They've declared him insane and therefore unfit, and he's going to go to Arkham. And Gordon's like pissed. So this is the first time they've caught Joker, and he's going to Arkham. And Gordon's pissed about this. He's like, that's not right. He's not crazy. I mean, he's not. And Harvey points out that he's not exactly a sane person. He's like, well, no, he's not. He is something else, but he's not. He's completely aware of what he's doing. He is not someone who is not in control of his actions. And a lot of this issue, what it actually is, because we then have a therapy scene where it's couples counseling. He's there with his wife Barb, and he has to duck out of this meeting as quickly as possible because he wants to go and inspect Arkham. He wants to meet with Jeremiah Arkham. And at this point in time, Arkham is not designed for criminally insane. It's mostly just a hospital for mentally ill people. And there's one guy who's got kind of a reinforced cell, but other than that, there was a character here, Billy Sampson, whose rich brother paid for his fancy cell because he is dangerous. And he's pissed that Joker's in a regular room that's just locked with a key, and there's nothing else about it. And he demands that Joker be moved into this more secure cell. This guy's been drugged up. He's not a danger to anyone. He calls the brother and tries to convince him to approve this. And Gordon is so concerned about Joker getting out that he actually decides to just on his own stake out the place in his car all night. He tries to call in the station to get them to send out some relief, a couple of cops to keep watch. But the station won't do it because the Joker's where he's supposed to be. There's no concern here. But Gordon recognizes that the Joker's more dangerous than this, and he hears commotion. He runs in. Joker had gotten out of his cell, but he just went to the kitchen and helped himself to some cake. Gordon throws him back into his cell and just gets a seat and just sits across his door and just waits and just makes sure he's not going anywhere. So it's all about just the start of the obsession. The start of the Joker is something else that is in his mind, and Joker talks to him through his little porthole.
Is window?
Yeah, window, I guess. But it's like a little slider.
Yeah.
But and he's like, hey, like, you're here all by yourself. I've clearly gone to you. I'm clearly in your head, aren't I? I've been in your head since we met. Since I tried to, poison the water supply. Which I love that they've kept that in, by the way. I love that every time we bring up Joker's first like attack on Gotham, it's always the water supply. I like that that's stuck all these years. And basically, when Joker is like ranting, he's talking about, hey, you can take down Falcone. You understand Falcone. You understand Maroni, but you don't understand me and who I am. I'm an anomaly, and you can't understand what I am, and that scares you. And he realizes that he was supposed to like call in Batman for backup. He was supposed to help Harvey, and he rushes out to the car and he tries to call in and say, "Hey, Harvey, can you hear me on the radio?" He's like, "I couldn't. I got caught up in something. I didn't reach out to Batman. You're gonna have to like postpone the thing or whatever." And he comes back, and once again, Joker's door's open, and he's gotten back out to the kitchen. He really wants that slice of cake. It's just Joker being mischievous. So he returns again, and Gordon sits there all night, just constantly smoking, with his gun in his hand. He's just this freaked out at the idea that Joker's not properly being contained. And in the morning, Jeremiah Arkham comes in and says, look, the brother approved us to use his cell. He's actually going to renovate a whole wing for the criminally insane. And this, is the start of Arkham Asylum being Arkham Asylum as we know it. So Gordon finally goes home, but when he's driving back, he hears on the radio that Harvey Dent and the team of cops who tried to take on Falcone were ambushed. They knew they were coming. It was a trap. Some of them got killed, and this all happened because Gordon wasn't doing what he said he was going to do, because he wasn't paying attention to the rest of the job. Joker got into his head, and he became obsessed with Joker, and this happened as a result. Harvey even says the people who were shot are on you. This is your fault. And Gordon's beating himself up, and the final page of the book, or the final page of the story, is that he goes home and there's a sign saying "Happy Anniversary, Mum and Dad," but the table's like been used, and it's the wine bottle's knocked over. He's not went home for his anniversary dinner, which was set up earlier on in the therapy session. So it's this really great just character study of Gordon dealing with this idea. And I think the fact that Joker's not mentioned at first, and because it starts off being about this other plot, it's kind of one of the things that I love about The Dark Knight, the movie, is the plot's not about the Joker. The plot's about the mob bosses, and the Joker kind of shoehorned his way into it. It's kind of like that in this, where just the idea of the Joker, once Gordon's got the idea that Joker's not secure, that's it. Like, it gets in the way of everything else that he's supposed to be doing in his life. His actual cop work, his family life, his relationship with his wife, which is clearly rocky at this point already. All of it just gets interrupted by his obsession with making sure the Joker is secure. And it just works so well. The art is gorgeous. The ending's perfect. Just sort of hitting home the start of it. And it adds a lot of nice context to the ongoing story in the book as well. So it doesn't just feel like it's just a redundant flashback. Like, and honestly, it's just a really nice kind of set in this time period story for Gordon. Like, I have very little negative to say about this. The art's fantastic. It's a really good Gordon story that relates to Joker, which informs the ongoing story. Joker in this story even says at one point, you wouldn't kill me, Gordon. That's not you. You don't kill people. So even that idea from this early part of the career of Gordon, well, it's not that. I mean, Gordon was a cop for a long time. You know what I mean? The early part of the comic book career of Gordon is so good. Is there a fly in the room, Connor? You're doing a lot of...
I have two very large moths flopping around me. I know, they keep distracting me. They keep going right past my head, pissing me off.
I'm seeing his head looking around like a madman.
You can see it on the bloody camera at times.
I can see it. I can see it.
There's two of them.
There's two moths.
They're huge, and they're pissing me off.
They're going to multiply. They're going to have sex, and there's going to be a whole family of moths.
I I just muted myself so I could swear quite loudly at my annoyance.
So, yeah, honestly, this is a standout issue, which works kind of on its own. Like, if you want to just buy this issue just to read this story, like, you could just read it on its own and it would work.
I believe the idea with these Francavilla issues is key moments in Gordon's life that the Joker's affects. Obviously, this is the post-year one. I don't know if it's the next one or the one after they're doing, what happens after the Killing Joke.
Yeah, well, the Killing Joke's been heavily mentioned in the present day story already by him.
Yeah,
it would make complete sense to go back to that at some point. But honestly, I would take a Gordon book that just goes through like parts of the timeline like this. It just does, because this was so good that I can't recommend it enough.
And Francavilla is one of the best artists working today. If you're interested in pulpy,
it's
pulpy dark stuff.
It's so stylish. It is so dark and shadowy, moody. And again, this idea that the art is so singular focused in its tone ties into Gordon being so singular focused in his entire mindset. So all of it just clicks together really well. I highly recommend Joker issue 5. And it's going to hurt when I get Gillen March art in issue 6. That's going to hurt. But
yeah,
this is a roaring success. So it's lucky for the other books that this isn't also competing for the picks in a minute, because this technically doesn't,
art, right?
Because this doesn't count because it's last week's issue. But if I had done this on the week it came out, this would have been fighting up there for some of the categories. So, but that is Joker issue 5. It is a straight up 9 out of 10. Wonderful stuff. Although there is a backup story I should mention. There's a backup story. I'm sorry, Matt. Am I keeping you?
Yes.
That
was a bad question to ask.
I'll be quick with this. So this is Harper's brother being around more of his boyfriend's friends who start speaking really I don't know, just really severely about Punchline and how much they support her. And he actually maybe starts to think they're going a bit too far and tries to leave. And the boyfriend chases out after him and is like, hey, I should have spoke up. He's a bit extreme. The other guy who was there, I'll do it. I'll never not speak up again. And tries to convince him to stay. Meanwhile, Harper goes to see her father in prison because she wants some intel about what Punchline's up to. And honestly, the biggest fault of this is that the issue ends with Punchline in prison saying they're looking for someone, and we see someone else in the prison called Kelly Ness, quivering in fear. And I hate the art in this backup, for the record, because it's really there's a lot of anime eyes there. The art is by Sweeney Boo, who
I believe was on one. Sweeney, I think it was on the Batgirl story in Urban Legends we just had, right? Like the really cartoony one.
Yeah. I have to admit, I don't remember who, because so the name of this character at the end is Kelly Ness, and I feel like I'm supposed to know who this is, and I don't remember. So the name might have been mentioned in the last backup story, but it's kind of hard to remember some of these backup stories. Like, even though I like Punchline and I like generally what it's doing, because there's so little in each one that I got to this last page and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know who this is.
It's just Punchline's former friend, so it probably came up in the backup
before. So, yeah, it probably did.
Yeah,
But so the ending was like,
that's all.
Okay, who's this? All right, never mind then. So the backup's like a 5 because I hated the art and it didn't make much sense to me. But the main story 9 out of 10. I'm all about it. So there you go. That'll take us out to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, top 5 books, the usual rigmarole. Matt, what was your favorite panel / moment?
It's gonna be from Nightwing, where the cavalry is coming to save him, and then they get called off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really real fun take, and seeing the Titans show up with the other Bat family.
Yeah,
I love that kind of storytelling.
I might have had that until I read Catwoman, and the page turned to the explosion and Valet walking out of the fire. That sequence is just absolutely
That's like 2 different pages. You can't pick
phenomenal.
2 pages.
It's a moment.
I'll take the explosion itself, but honestly though, it's all one big package moment, right? It's just one big package. Connor, what are you picking?
I'm narrowing it down to the single panel of Father Valley walking out of the fire.
Look at him. He tried to like get me to drop that in a technicality, so he was the only one who had that exact panel.
It was a little bit. To be honest, though, I could have just gone with someone from Supergirl. The big dragon would have done it, frankly. That page, if I could take out the narration boxes and just focus on that.
Yeah, cover of the week. I have to admit, I don't love a lot of covers this week, but I think I like the variant for Supergirl, but I will probably go with the Jamal Campbell variant for Nightwing.
That is the wrong choice, because the correct choice is the Catwoman variant. The
Thank you.
Jenny Prison. It's the only correct
When are you
choice.
going to learn that I almost never pick Jenny Prison covers? Like
When you start
Ivy,
picking them.
Selena, perfect.
Such a good cover.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your pick? Are you picking that too?
That's mine too.
Okay, all right.
I'm shocked.
All right,
Yeah.
Connor, best art of the week.
Oh, yeah, damn it. This is honestly, this is a tough week for art, because I've got Janin, I got Evely, Blanco, all turning in stellar pages. Bloody Brian sucks on an issue; it isn't even in contention. That's how good this week is. I'm probably going to give it to Supergirl. I think Evely and Lopez's colors just stand out.
Matt?
Blanco for Catwoman. I didn't have to think twice.
Yeah, Catwoman. I don't have. If that Joker issue was in the same week, like I may have picked that.
Oh god, I'm so glad I didn't read that and that wasn't in this week, because man, you throw Francavilla into this mix.
Yeah.
How do I possibly choose?
Kumar was up there for Justice League Dark, and then of course Janin. I mean, come on, but
yeah,
Blanco.
Francavilla may, but I really didn't even may. He would have got the win. But out of the books from this week, it's Catwoman.
I say a week where Brian Sook is not even in consideration for the top 3 is a hell of a week for art.
What's the thing? I mean, Catwoman would have had competition from Nightwing if it was all Redondo, but it wasn't. It was it was a up and down kind of affair. So, Catwoman. But yeah, all right. Top 5 books then, Matt. Off you go.
All right, number 1's Catwoman, 2 is Nightwing, 3 is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, 4 is Superman and the Authority, and 5 is Blue and Gold.
Cool. Connor?
Catwoman, number 1, no question. Then Supergirl. After that, probably Nightwing, Blue and Gold, Superman and the Authority.
I'm starting off kind of similar here, because I'll go number 1 Catwoman, number 2 Supergirl, number 3 Nightwing, number 4 I will go Blue and Gold, then number 5 Flash. That's I think where I'm landing on that. So neat. So I will take this time to tell you about
I thought you were skipping. Just with your cadence, I thought you were going to say something else.
He was about to go. That was the Patreon producers leading.
No, I wasn't.
And I was going to go, hey, Pete, what's up?
I was
week?
looking for
you
my
only ever say,
tab.
I'll take this time to. That is your line. Patreon producers.
He has added that with, but just the certain cadence it was going.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what I was going to say. Okay, I was stalling.
How dare you be right?
I was stalling whilst I was finding my tab. Right, it was. Do you know what it is? It's good presentation work. It's what that is.
Presentation.
Yes.
You gonna tell us what's coming then?
I am. I'm just. I'm calming down
He's
for a
gonna give us
second.
the Patreon producers list that he brought up.
Oh, I wish, you know what, Matt. I don't know, is there a chance I can get you to like install a mechanical arm with a boxing glove that's next to your computer screen that if I press a button it'll just reach out and whack you in the face? Is that a possibility? No.
No. However, if you send it to Ashley, she will more than happily set that up.
I think the viewers would love it.
I feel like there's a similar situation here with Paige.
Yes.
She would be all for it.
There was a point when we were mini golfing that she goes, "Okay, enough Happy Gilmore jokes. it's enough."
All right, here's what's coming next week from DC Comics: Detective Comics 1040, Action Comics 1033, Wonder Woman 776, Strange Adventures 11, Infinite Frontier issue 3, Robin issue 4, Batman Superman 20, Harley Quinn issue 5, Teen Titans Academy issue 5, Batman Reptilian issue 2, and amusingly was meant to be out 2 weeks ago and was delayed from a week Matt was missing to another week that Matt is missing, and that is Superman Son of Kal-El issue 1 from Tom Taylor. But
okay.
We also have Other History of the DC Universe issue 5, Checkmate issue 2, Batman Secret Files Huntress issue 1, Wonder Woman Black and Gold issue 2, Mr. Miracle Source of Freedom issue 3, Ruby Justice League issue 4, Looney Tunes 261, and DC Connect 15. Now that was a very long list, but admittedly a lot of those were not things that we typically read, so it's okay. But
you know how like I have this whole thing of like, yeah, if I'm only getting a few pages of content, I'm not gonna like buy a whole issue.
Yeah.
There's a Tilly Walden story in that Wonder Woman Black and Gold, so I'm probably gonna buy it.
Oh, fine. It's a good Dotson's cover too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Tamaki story in there. There's a McKelvey's on an issue. I'll get other stuff out of it.
So after the Signal issue, I was a little head shy about Huntress, but
it's Tamaki.
Huntress is Tamaki, so
yeah. I don't know. It's a busy week. I've got like 9 books, but you know, it's
hopefully I have enough time to get in Infinite Frontier this time, so I don't leave that off.
You'll have to read your books very early, Matt.
This is becoming Matt said Doomsday Clock. Where if Matt's not here, Infinite Frontier must be out.
Definitely, I will try to get Superman.
I believe we're recording significantly earlier, Matt.
Yeah, well then
that's a good point. Yes, we're recording. We're recording on Wednesday next week, Matt.
yeah, not gonna happen.
You'll just have to give us some brief thoughts when you're back the following week.
and you can tell us all about Matt, the cover of Checkmate, and you can answer the question, who is Damon Rose?
Well, Justice League told me that's Lois Lane's brother, Sam Lane's son. They spoiled it.
It's not even in the Checkmate issue.
Boy, all right, cool. Let's wrap this up. I'm hungry. I'm cranky. I'm tired. I want to punch things.
I could tell.
Is the draft going that badly?
No, I've been up since 4 a.m.
Let me finish. Let me do the outro then. Jesus Christ! Don't tangent them into something else, right? When you want the show to end.
What books are coming next week?
The books are already. I've already done the books coming next week.
Okay, just making sure.
They're done. It's over. I will now take this time to thank our Patreon producers: Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. Stanley,
Excelsior!
Stanley. You can of course support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming. At the $5 tier for this show in particular, you get the show a day early. You get it on Saturday sometime whenever it's finished, versus the usual Sunday time. So if that's of interest, go have a look and see if you want that early access. But go and have a look. You can also support us, of course, if you're on YouTube. You can hit the like button. You can comment. You can subscribe. You can ding the bell. And if you do listen to the audio version, it may be worth going over to the YouTube Comics From The Multiverse channel occasionally, because all of the old episodes are being split up and uploaded individually for each review. So in theory, when it's all done, there'll be a playlist of just say all of like Batman from Rebirth issue 1 up until now. Obviously there's a big gap right now where they've not been done yet, but like gradually it's getting there. So if that's of interest, if you ever want to just like relive the thoughts of a series, the option's there.
Watch us sour on books like Tomasi's Superman and
King's
Batman in real time.
Yes.
It's Flash.
So you can go check out that. Obviously, if you're on the audio version, you can rate us 5 stars, give us a review on iTunes, or review your podcast from. All that does help. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, of course, and share us out on there as well. Always a help. The comics community is both big, but also very small, and it's very easy to reach the rest of it. So sharing us out to the rest of the comic community is probably a fun thing you can do. That will be very helpful. Otherwise, though, that is us. So yeah, like with Kevin implying, Matt is absent again next week. He's got I don't even know what he's doing next week. I can't remember.
I'm going to an Angels game to finally see Mike Trout play in person, and hopefully see Shohei Ohtani hit a home run.
So it was something stupid. Okay. So.
How dare you, sir?
So, but Matt will be back the following week. Unfortunately, you're stuck with me and Connor next week.
Who knows? I may not be there the following week.
The following week, sure. Yeah, but you're here next week.
If we're fortunate.
You can dream.
Oh, dear.
I'm sorry, Connor. I don't mean that.
That's fine.
But
I'd mean it. I wouldn't.
But there you go.
Connor's self-esteem's so low, he even hates himself.
So
isn't that just everyone?
Yeah, true.
So there you go. That is the show. That is episode 263. I think we're on. I've forgotten. It's been so long. But let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments or on Twitter or wherever. It's always nice to hear. But that is us. So we'll see you next time. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Or the multiverse. The place is real big.